What's happening, everybody? Welcome to the program. It's the Jeff Gerstmann Show. Today is Tuesday, May 13th, 2025, and we are here ready to talk about the world of video games and all of the insane, truly wild happenings surrounding them naturally. Hi, everyone. Welcome to the program. We'll be joined later on by one Dan Ryckert, who is a renowned author, wrestling. He has a, of course, everyone knows about his background in professional wrestling, entrepreneur, foodie. He'll be on later on in the program to, discuss all that and then some. Doom the Dark Ages, we are in the weird we're in the weird middle ground right now, where that game is out if you want to pay a lot of money for it, but not out if you want to wait for it on Game Pass. My understanding is that you can, if you pay the difference and buy the premium DLC or whatever, that will let you play the Game Pass version early, so you could theoretically play it for $30. They had, they ran into a thing where like the game launched on Steam yesterday, and for a period of time, no one could play. Like, it wasn't loading right or something. There was just, drama. I don't know, man. This isn't new technology, right? The whole, early access, but like, I don't know, some games kind of still screw up from time to time with that sort of stuff. But it sounds like they corrected that pretty readily. So the game launched last night for the $100 people, and then you'll if you want to play it on Game Pass, that's tomorrow, or I guess like late tonight is maybe technically the. I don't know how everyone times their stuff differently. So either way, Doom the Dark Ages is rolling out in various forms across the nation. And I was a little hesitant. Like, this game had some good-looking trailers and, like all of that. But conceptually, I think between the nature of Doom Eternal and what they had been saying about what they wanted to do with Doom the Dark Ages, it was a weird feeling of like, these trailers look good, but you're telling me you're making a Doom game where the Doom guy has a shield and he can stand there and just take it. That there was a real kind of like, stand and fight it out kind of a mentality to it, as opposed to like what you think of as Doom, especially modern Doom, is like you've got to be an acrobat, even without all the platforming stuff in Doom Eternal. You've got to be hopping around and running around and being super crazy, right? You've got to be, just everywhere all the time. And so it was kind of an interesting pitch that sounded markedly different from what they had been doing in the past couple of games. And so I guess I wasn't really sure how that was going to pan out. And I have, I don't know, I've been playing the game for about a week now, and it's really good. Like all of that stuff, that's not the stuff, like all of that stuff I think is really fantastic. I think the way that they have pieced those things together works really, really well. They have reduced kind of the Doom Eternal's stuff often felt punishing. It often felt punitive if you were not playing it the right way, and you would fall out of that loop and be like, like this isn't, everything is taking a little too long to kill. I'm constantly running out of stuff. Like this doesn't, like, it made it very clear that was not the right way to play it. And I think that stuff is, whatever. We've talked to death about Doom Eternal, and between that and the platforming, Doom Eternal, I think is a pretty solid step down from the 2016 release of Doom that we now just call Doom 2016. I guess, which is funny because I feel like when most games get remade or rebooted with the same name, It's usually the new game that just Doom. But Doom is so like actual real regular old 90s Doom is so fucking iconic that even a game as good as that 2016 Doom, you simply can't bring yourself to refer to it merely as Doom. And they don't. Bethesda doesn't. They know. They're like us. They're like, yeah, no, it's the Doom 2016, not Doom. Because Doom is Doom. Also, we're re-releasing Doom, so they made it extra confusing on that front as well. And so this is a really interesting kind of like iteration on a lot of those concepts, and you see a lot of the same game in there. The map looks similar, how they handle secrets, and you can definitely play this game like staring at the map and going, okay, there's a thing here. And there's a pathway that leads down. So I think if I jump down here, that's how I get on the path to get to the secret. Like you can play it that way. And for the first many, many hours I 100%ed the first batch of levels because I just kind of kept staring at the map and going like, okay, there's a thing here. I can do this. And there's a thing over here. And at the end of the level, there'd be one that I missed. And so I'd stomp all the way over and do all that. But, it is much more forgiving. I guess it's not that it's forgiving, it's that it's a little more loose with how it gives you resources. Doom Eternal was that kind of flow chart or treadmill or whatever you want to call it, where you would, I need more armor, so I need to kill this guy this way so that I get more armor, and then I'm doing okay here, and I need a little more health, so I should kill this guy with this glory, And so it became this thing of like, I need to stare at these numbers all the time to look at what's the lowest and go like, oh, I need more ammo, so I need to kill this next guy this way. And that was something that when they showed it to me pre-release was awesome, and then in practice in the final game, I don't think that it worked out very well at all. Because the penalty for messing it up slowed you way down in a way that was not exciting or fun to ramp back up. Anyway, this game feels much more free form. Like you can play through the majority of this game with a single weapon if you want to. Like the way, and I should be clear that I'm talking about kind of around the default difficulty setting. If you want to be more resource constrained and want to have to, kind of add some of that stuff back, the higher difficulty settings will sort of do that a little bit. But this just feels more open to like, hey man, play the way you want, and there are upgrades that you can get that will, help you in that regard. If you want to find more, if you find yourself like, oh, I could use more armor more frequently than I'm getting it, then if you use an upgraded shotgun blasts will cause enemies to shed armor pickups. And so you just can do that on a regular basis. And so there's still that aspect of like the numbers are kind of yo-yoing up and down, but for me, it was really just the health number that would be yo-yoing up and down. And so you would get these notifications like critical health and you're like, oh shit. But it was not the thing to do when you see those critical health things is not to back off and be careful. It actually is a notification to say you need to be more aggressive. And so in Doom of the Dark Ages, when I get down to 5 health and the noise sounds of like, hey dude, you're going to die. It's like, nope. All right. I've got to get in this fucker's face and I've got to spam the melee attack and just wail away on him with a flail, which will cause some armor to pop out. And I can, like the melee and parrying system in the game inspires you to play at a closer range than maybe you're used to in previous Doom games, but in a lot of other first-person shooters, really. Like the general encounter range feels much tighter. And so you can just get in there. And there is a sense of accomplishment. And like they make the combat feel... It's such an overused term, especially when it comes to Doom games, but it is very badass when you get in these motherfuckers' faces and they are, trying to swipe you and you are parrying that attack and whacking them with your flail and then sticking your shield in them, which stuns them for a few minutes, and then just fucking laying into them with the rocket launcher. or I use the cycler, which is like the level 2 plasma rifle, and that's a very good thing for handling a lot of enemies. You have a shoulder charge, like a shield bash kind of thing that will carry you forward a great distance. And so if you see an enemy up high and you're like, oh, I need to get up there to him, you're like, oh right, I can just target him and do that, and it'll go zip, and you'll zip up there and bash him with your shield. And so having those tools at your disposal to like get in that ass, and then once you're in that ass, stay in that ass, is incredibly powerful. And it is very much unlike a lot of other first-person shooters. It is not just, you can do this, but it's not a game about circle strafing, man. It is not like I'm going to whittle down these enemies and I'm going to walk in a circle around them and do this. Instead, it is like, I am going to stand right in front of this asshole because his projectile attacks are coming at me and I can parry them back at him, which, depending on how you're upgraded and whatever else, might stun him or cause a turret to appear on your shoulder and shoot for a while. And, there are upgrades that proc when you parry a projectile attack. And so you're constantly incentivized to be standing right there, still dodging shots and looking out because there's enemies coming at you from all sides. But it's not about kiting those enemies in such a way that you can then cluster them together and shoot them and do that. Like, you don't have to do that. Instead, you're like, oh, there's like 4 enemies attacking me at the same time. I'm going to parry this. Then I'm going to turn and parry this, which will stun that guy long enough for me to handle this. And it becomes this very expressive form of combat, which to me is the exact opposite of what Doom Eternal did, which is, it was the opposite of expression. It was, this is what you will do. This feels more like, no, I'm going to make this happen, and I am going to fucking kick and stomp and shoot my way out of this bad situation, because backing away just means I'll get hit by something else as I'm doing it, and I will die. And so the number of times I have sucked it out of like getting that critical health notification and being like, nope, not going to accept that, and then get a kill, do the glory kill, which pops a bunch of health out, so that immediately solves that situation, then rotating to this and this, and just kind of like continually beating and bashing your way out of these situations, I think is incredibly well done. I think it is super fun. And I think it's something that just about anyone could do. It's the ability you have to kind of tweak things goes beyond the kind of basic difficulty setting. It's not just like, hurt me plenty or ultra, like it is, you can go in there with the default difficulty and then say, oh, I want the parry window to be wider even than it is on this setting. And so you can adjust the window on the parries, separately from the rest of the difficulty. You can, there are things you can do with the game speed. There's a lot of little kind of doodads and things in the difficulty modifiers that let you do a lot of weird stuff to the game. And so you can kind of like make it something that, feels right to you. And so if you just want to, you set it up to a harder difficulty setting, but maybe make the parry window wide so you have a really good chance on that, you can. I've been playing it mostly on the default difficulty. I found that to work out quite well. It's the melee stuff, the shield stuff is really cool. I mean, they kind of just sometimes it feels like they looked at Captain America, like Capcom's take on Captain America, and went like, all right, we need charging stars, we need shield slash. And what else? Is that it? Is that good? Should he have a dragon punch? They should have, honestly, they should have given him a fucking dragon punch. They should have given him stars and stripes. They should have, what they should have done is they should have given him thumbs up, soldier. Like, honestly, if the Doom man ever said thumbs up, soldier, that would be pretty good. You can even get guard crushed. Like, if you use the shield, because you can use the shield to parry, but you can also just put it up to block. But if you just sit there and block forever, you will eventually break and you won't be able to guard for a little while. And so there's kind of a weird fighting game adjacent stuff in this, I guess, a little bit. That's probably not necessarily where they came up with this stuff, but when you look at it and you look at how Captain America this guy is with the shield he is throwing, and the shield can bounce to multiple enemies, and all of the stuff that you want a good Captain America to do in a video game, it's kind of weird that it's kind of weird that this is where they settled on it, I guess. I think it's a great looking game. The thing I noted on playing it on PC, and I'm curious to see, I haven't really asked, I know a couple people that played it on console and felt pretty much the same way I did about the PC version. But one thing I didn't check on was the load times. This is one of, it's like, kind of who cares, but this is one of the fastest loading games I've seen in a really long time. Just the time from title screen to pushing the button to go in game, and then it giving you a brief loading time, and then being like, all right, hit spacebar to get in here. It's like 3 seconds. It's like some insane 3 or 4 seconds on this machine. It's a pretty fast SSD. It's direct storage. I don't know if the game is direct storage compatible, but the hard drive is fast enough to be direct storage compatible. Okay. Bad Joke UK says load times are insanely fast on Xbox Series X. Okay, so I would then assume that the PlayStation is pretty much in a similar boat. But it's a game where you can hit the restart from checkpoint button and it's just there. It's just boom, here you go. And games that was one of the things they promised with this generation of consoles, right? It was like, oh, the load times are going to be non-existent. And then no one did it. Because I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing, because I don't think consumers really give a shit. It's cool that they do it, but it sticks out when someone does it and does it well. It's like, wow, this is awesome. Like, imagine if all games were like this. That would be great. But no one is not buying a game because load times are existent or whatever, right? I feel like load times have gotten better, or at worst they are good enough. But I have to say, they kind of went the extra mile here, and I rarely had to restart from checkpoint. It was really just like, oh, I missed a secret and went past a point of no return, and I should really reload the checkpoint before it saves. Oh, geez, I should do this. And so there were a couple of times where I did do that, and it all came, it was right there. It was just like, boom, restart, and you're there at your checkpoint at this location, and that stuff worked way better than most other games. And so I think that's really super impressive. It's impressive to the point of being worth kind of calling out, even in a world where, we don't really talk that much about load times. It has a great, because we've been talking about it lately, and I think this was something that the other Doom games maybe didn't do especially well. It has a separate accessibility setting for the parryable attacks. Not every attack is something you can parry, and so they give them a unique color. I think by default that color is maybe green or yellow, and the non-parryable attacks are either green or yellow. So those, by default, those run together for me in a way where I can't really tell the difference. But they have an arbitrary color setting. They did the exact right thing. It's awesome. It's awesome. And you can set it to I have it set to a weird fucking blue that really sticks out, and it colors the projectiles in a way that looks really nice. And it will put an outline around the enemy when they're ready to be glory killed or whatever. There are a few different settings there, but you can set that color arbitrarily. It's not just pick Protonopia and hope that they figured it out. No, you can pick a color that works for you. And for me, that is literally the difference between being able to play this game and not being able to play this game, because it is so about these parries and about being able to detect, hey, you can parry this, or hey, you can't parry this. That if they didn't have that setting in there, I would instead be telling you, yeah, I played this game for 45 minutes and then realized that I cannot play it. And so, that's awesome. In a world where I feel like very few companies are doing it well, and we have talked a lot more than I ever planned to about specifically color blindness settings in games and how bad most of them are. They fucking nailed it. They absolutely nailed it. So good on them there. They break up the action. So, most of the game's on foot, but they do break up the action with these kind of larger, like almost vehicle-like sequences. You get into this big mech suit a couple of times, and you pilot a dragon. And that stuff is fine as like a diversion. And it's very striking visually. It's you do some cool shit while you're in these sequences, but like from a pure gameplay perspective, they're not very exciting. And I think they go back to the well on them maybe one too many times, especially the dragon stuff, because flying around is not. It's just not super engaging. These levels, like conceptually, it's kind of cool, but like when you go back and do it the second time, or the third time for the dragon, really, it's like level 12 or so. By the time you're halfway through the game, I think you will have done about 3 different dragon sequences, and then from there, and in theory, it's cool because it gives you this really big level, and you're flying around, and you're shooting ships out of the sky, and that is causing the ships to crash, which can create a landing zone. And so you will land the dragon, jump out, do some Doom shit, and then get back on the dragon and do it again. So it's like they've broken up these 4 or 5 little smaller levels around this larger landscape, and you kind of fly from place to place as you go. And I'm getting a connection unstable message here. I don't know if you are still seeing me or what the. Okay. So maybe I'm back now. Hello. Okay, great. I changed browsers, which means I need to change an audio setting over here, because if I don't, then when Dan joins, you will hear him twice. And again, no one needs that. No one needs that at all. I need to get to the volume mixer. There it is. We need to set this web browser to communicate on the music bus. There we go. That should be fine. Okay. Okay, sorry. The dragon stuff in Doom, as I was saying, it feels like they took these 4 or 5 little levels and combined them with you kind of flying around and doing some stuff to open up kind of the next chunk of a level. And it's conceptually okay, but I think in practice it gets very repetitive. And so that stuff is a little kind of whatever. In the long run, the mech stuff, like, and the combat in these sequences is very like Punch Out like. It's like an enemy sends an attack and you have to dodge it, and by dodging it in the mech suit, you're filling up a meter that lets you do a special extra hard punch. Or in the dragon, it supercharges your gun in a way that can punch through shields and stuff. So it really is about you hitting the spacebar at the right time to duck out of the way of an attack, and then scooting back in and doing your thing. And, it's okay. It's a little flat. Why don't we take a quick break here? Because that'll give me a chance to make sure that this stuff works. And then we'll come back and we'll talk about some more video games. Back in a moment. Wallets are weird, man. They're big. They're bulky. Sometimes they're just like these strange shapes in your pockets. They can be a hassle to deal with, especially if you're relaxing. They're weighing your pants down. You're wearing these kind of like, your loose, warm weather shorts, and you got your wallet, and it's just dragging down the right side of your shorts. Or maybe you're a left side wallet guy. I don't know. It's a hassle. There's an upgrade out there. It's the Ridge wallet. This is the slim, sleek upgrade your pockets have been begging for. And it helps you with a wallet that, it feels, more like something nice and slim and fitting in your pocket. sleek even, but it's spacious. The Ridge wallet can hold up to 12 cards plus some cash without turning your pockets into a soupy, lumpy, disgusting mess. It slips right into your front pocket, and then that's it. It's practically, gone. They make it out of premium materials like titanium and carbon fiber. I've got one that's a forged carbon finish on it. It's got a nice look. They have over 50 colors and styles. So it's not just functional, it's personal. And they do some limited edition and all these other designs. So if you want like a football team on it or whatever, they've got you covered. So it's easy to deal with. Losing your wallet's the worst. They've got an AirTag attachment. So if you want to like be able to slide an AirTag in there, you'll know exactly where your wallet is and you can track it down. They also make all kinds of other stuff like a cool key case that you can slide your keys into, so they don't jangle around. I don't know if you're in the business of ever having to pick up your keys in a room where a baby is sleeping, but let me tell you, if those keys are not jangling around because they're in a slick Ridge key case, it is much easier to do what you need to do. They've even got rings, you're looking for like a replacement, like wedding ring, something a little more durable. They've got you covered on that. No matter what you pick, Ridge has free shipping, a 99-day risk-free trial, and a lifetime warranty on all products. And right now they are having an insane sale. You can get up to 40% off of your order by going to ridge.com/JeffG. Right now, yes, Ridge is having their huge Memorial Day sale. So get up to 40% off at ridge.com/JeffG. Just head over there right now. Ridge, RIDGE.com/JeffG to see their biggest sale of the year. And after you purchase, they'll ask where you heard of them. Let them know. It's us. It's us, baby. Get these wallets, son. All right, we're back. I don't know that I have it. Yeah, so I think the vehicle stuff in Doom: The Dark Ages is a bit of a downer, mainly because that stuff overstays its welcome ever so slightly. But like it's still cool. I don't know. It's I definitely like I think the third time I got into a dragon level, I was like, oh man, not again. But like there's cool moments where these giant Titan dudes, and you're shooting them as the dragon, and then there's the kind of glory kill or whatever for that is the dragon like landing on this guy, prying his mouth open and shooting fire down the guy's fucking throat until he blows up. And it's cool. That's real cool as an animation. It's a real cool thing. But it doesn't necessarily offset that is probably the weakest point in the game. And it's still at least looks neat. So overall, I think Doom: The Dark Ages is a very successful follow-up to what they've been doing with the Doom franchise, to the point where this is technically a prequel, but it feels like this sort of standalone thing. I mean, I'm not like a real big Doom timeline guy of like, well, this game is here, and adult Doom Slayer is here, and child Doom Slayer, and then you go and in this game you get the ocarina and you play it, and it's the timeline. I don't. That's not how I enjoy Doom. But my feeling from this is like coming away from it is like they could probably. There's some mileage here that they could get out of like these different concepts of the Doom Slayer through time and space, of like, here's a wildly different setting that we are going to put Doom style combat in. I think that they could, I don't necessarily have like the dream setting about like, oh, they should do a Doom that's set here, or whatever. But I think that like this game, which is like a weird mix of sci-fi and fantasy, like, like the Slayer himself is set up like a frickin' barbarian. He's got a fur cape and his shield and his flail, and he's doing his thing. But also there are ships flying overhead There are big energy shields stopping the demons of hell from getting in. There's like a lot of like weird technology mixed in with all of the castles and kings and all of this other shit. And I think that's an interesting look. I think sometimes when you blend those things, it can be incredibly corny. And I think if you stared at the Doom storyline here a little too long, you might feel the same way. But it is very bang, 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 and on to the next thing in a way that doesn't give you a ton of time to sit and think about, like, yeah, I don't know, this guy seems dumb. And there's like a weird RoboCop kind of parallel where they're keeping the Doom Slayer kind of locked in a room in stasis sort of, and he's fighting against that to kind of wake up and get out and whatever else. And like it's overall a very neat game. There's video of me playing it up on YouTube. There is a review of it on the Patreon. If you want to read that review right now, that's like 1,500 words on some Doom at patreon.com/Jeff Gerstmann if you want to give that a look. I want to know, we're probably gonna take another break here pretty soon because I maybe talked about Doom a little too long, longer than I thought I would. So we're probably going to get to our next break here, but something I want you to think about here, because we're going to talk about it when we get back, is what games are on the verge of like falling through the cracks for you this year. For me, it feels like suddenly a bunch of stuff came out and I am having a little bit of trouble keeping up on some of it. I want to know if you've got games that you're just like on the verge of bailing on completely because you're just like, I'm never gonna have time to do it. So let's take one more break. We'll come back. We'll talk about that, and then we'll get into the news. Selling stuff online. Are you selling stuff online? You should be. Do you need to find a home for the things that you are looking to sell online, but you're like, I don't want to have to build a payment flow and do all this credit card stuff, and oh gosh, who wants to do this? No one. And you don't have to, because Shopify already did all of that. They are offering these turnkey solutions that integrate with a ton of things. So if you've already got some infrastructure somewhere else and you're looking to just like, hey, we need to add an e-commerce platform, you should use the one that Mattel and Gymshark use. It's Shopify. Shopify is the commerce platform behind millions of businesses around the world and 10% of all e-commerce in the US. That's those big brands we talked about, to brands that are just getting started. They've got a design studio built in with hundreds of ready-to-use templates, so Shopify will help you build a beautiful online store to match your style. And you can, get some product descriptions and page headlines in there, and, you get your product photography. They'll help you with all of that stuff if you need it. And then, hey, get the word out. You can easily create email and social media campaigns wherever your customers are scrolling or strolling. That's right. If they see you out and about, they can still get in. And best yet, Shopify is your commerce expert with world-class expertise in everything from managing inventory to international shipping to processing returns and beyond. If you're ready to sell, you're ready for Shopify. Turn your big business idea into dollars with Shopify on your side. Sign up for your $1 per month trial and start selling today at shopify.com/Jeff. Go to shopify.com/Jeff. That's shopify.com/Jeff. So for me, the games that are in danger of falling through the cracks, I think the main one right now is Claire Obscure Expedition 33. It's a game that I am interested in trying. It's not necessarily a genre that I spend a ton of time with, but I do want to kind of give it a look. It sounds like it's awesome. Like I don't. That's not me passing judgment on the game one way or the other. It's just like there's a lot of other stuff coming out. And every time, having had it installed since launch, I'm looking at it and going like, is today that it? No, I don't have time to get into this right now. And I hope to spend some time with it. There'll be a lull at some point, right? I mean, it's not like there's a whole new console coming out in like 3 weeks. Jeez. So yeah, I'm sure there will be some time for that at some point this year. I see a lot of people kind of on both sides of that, of that's a game that they have not gotten into yet, versus people saying like, oh yeah, this game's incredible. I really want to see it because aspects of it seem very interesting, and I do like the look of the game a lot. The last time they showed it off pre-release kind of sold me on it conceptually. It's like, oh man, this does look really good. And so I do want to give that a go. And yeah, I've seen Monster Hunter Wilds is actually maybe another one for me now that I see a couple of people mentioning it. The Oblivion remaster. Yeah, that's definitely the Oblivion remaster is something that I was like excited about conceptually, but like in a world where there's a bunch of new games coming out, I am probably going to prioritize newer video games over remakes and remasters. That's just kind of how I do things. Atomfall is a game that I really enjoyed when I spent some time with it, but have not returned to it. This is all stemmed out of I don't know what started it, but on the Discord, which you can get on if you sign up for the Patreon, people were posting like, here's their list of installed games, and Steam is ordered in the order of recency of like when you last played those games. And so I'm like looking at this stuff and going like, oh, I have not played Atomfall since March. And Atomfall seemed very neat, and I like the idea of it a lot. And I have not even, like, it's hard to remember that it even exists most of the time because there's so much other stuff coming out that has been kind of vying for that time. Blueprints is a game that like I am currently kind of in a holding pattern on because of the colorblindness stuff. They shipped without whatever their intended solution for that is. They shipped without it and said like, oh, we're working on it. And I don't think it's hit yet. But I kind of uninstalled it because I was like, I don't know, with the way my eyes work, I don't know what I'm missing, if I'm missing anything. And like, that is conceptually so maddening that I was like, okay, I can't, I'm not even going to do that. And before that, I don't like, the game was not necessarily doing it for me, but is that because I was missing something? I don't know. It's like I don't know. The back and forth on that was driving me freaking crazy. So I actually literally uninstalled Blueprints because I got so mad. But like at some point they will theoretically update that. I don't know what their solution is for color-based stuff in that game, but I don't know. People seem to like that a lot. I'm not sure that it will ever be for me, but I did not dislike what I played of it. I don't really know what to make of it. South of Midnight is kind of another one on that list of like, you can disable it in game, but not in the cutscene. The stop motion stuff in that game really, I find it really off-putting visually for a video game, especially a video game with like combat in it and stuff. Like the idea of, hey, we spend all this time talking about frame perfect this and that and doing, and here's a game that is deliberately getting away from that. But it sounds like that the combat in that game is maybe not the draw anyway. So maybe that's how they got around it. But I don't know. In a world where what is Samsung just announced a 500 hertz monitor. In a world where I'm looking at a 500 hertz monitor and going like, yeah, all right, okay. I mean, it's not currently on sale in the US. And maybe if the tariff situation gets worked out, I don't know what they're not selling it in the US right now. This monitor I'm sitting in front of is 360 hertz, which is also that already is a ridiculous number. So, but in a world where all of that stuff exists, to have a game where they're just like, we made our frame rate bad on purpose because that's an art style. And I'm like, no, I respect that. I respect that art style. But it makes me crazy. So yeah, South of Midnight is another one that's kind of on that list. I've seen some people say Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 is something that they haven't really spent a lot of time with. Someone says, what about Marathon? I mean, Marathon's not out. So, I don't know. I don't know what else will be out when Marathon comes out. I expect when Marathon ships, I will try Marathon again. But that alpha sure didn't do it for me at all. So we'll see. Assassin's Creed is kind of on the bubble a little bit with this stuff as well. That's a game I have enjoyed a lot of it. I think it's really well done. But then just kind of other stuff started coming out, and I just got busy with other games, and the accessibility issue around the parrying and color stuff kind of forced me to turn the difficulty down in a way that I don't like playing, because it made the game brain dead easy, just stupid. And that's a little frustrating. And so every moment I spend playing Assassin's Creed Shadows is saddled with this knowledge that I am playing it on way too low of a difficulty setting. And I have to, because their accessibility on the colors on their parryable and non-parryable attacks is ultra bad. And so I'm torn there of like, maybe I should wait and see if they properly fix that, versus like, maybe I'm just not, I don't know, maybe I won't get back to it. Maybe I won't have time to, or the desire to really go back to it. But the early game there, or I guess the early game in Assassin's Creed Shadows, you can kind of just, you can extend that out a really long way if you want. Like there's so many cool, fun, and interesting quests and things you do in that game that are aside from just, go to this castle and murder everybody here. I mean, that stuff's fun. Like the clockwork guard murdering is always a good time. But then you have to learn tea etiquette and like, pretend to be someone you're not. And they force you to remember some of the specifics around that etiquette that you learn, as well as keeping your story straight about what your fake name is and all of this other stuff. Like it's a really interesting quest line that I think hands a lot to the player, where normally a lot of games would just be like, oh, well, you learned it, so you're going to do it automatically when the time comes and blah, whatever. And the consequences for getting it wrong are not like pure failure or whatever. It's like, if you make the wrong choice, you might have killed the wrong person, and then you have to track the right person down and kill her, back at the castle she's building, which is how it went for me, because I was about to say I'm a bad judge of character, which is, I don't think that's actually true, but I think in that moment in Assassin's Creed, I was a bad judge of character and had to kill a bunch of people instead of just one. So yeah, that's something I have had a really good time with. I think that game's incredibly well made, but I have not been able to go back to it. And it is in this weird bubble of like, are they going to fix it in a way that will let me play it the way it is meant to be played? Or am I going to have to like dumb my way through it on the lowest, easiest, stupidest difficulty setting because of their accessibility failure? And that makes me want to wait in the hopes that they eventually do fix it. So those are kind of my big ones, but yeah, man, I don't know. There's some big stuff coming up this year. I think this is it is shaping up to be a strange year for games. Obviously, the delay of Grand Theft Auto 6 kind of puts things into a weird place, because I think a lot of other studios were assuming that was going to come out in the fall. And so we have like Death Stranding 2 coming up pretty soon here. That's something perhaps I will ask one Dan Ryckert about Death Stranding 2 when he appears on the program in a little bit here. Because I know he went to Japan to play it. Though I think the thing I'm actually interested in talking about with him is what was it like to miss Wrestle? What was it like for him to be a man who said he was going to go to every WrestleMania for the rest of his life, to have to choose between WrestleMania and Hideo Kojima? That is the actual conversation I want to have with him. Talk about poor timing for events. So yeah, I don't know. Those are the games that I feel like are like just like drifting away from me now. They're in the ether, and I don't know if any of them are. I'm going to grab them and pull them back, because honestly, those games are cool. But what if I just played more Tower Unite instead? Or or something to that effect. I still we haven't even talked about Skin Deep. In this context, like, I think Skin Deep is really cool, and I want to play it. And yeah, why don't we get into the news? Last week we talked about a website called giantbomb.com, which appeared to be on the verge of shutting down. It looked like that they were in the process of parting ways with their entire staff, and all of these like messages that looked like they were written by AI, and all of this about like, oh, we're trying to figure out what the future holds for this thing. I think Fandom is a bad company. I think Fandom has done a lot of, separately from owning, owning GameSpot or any of this other stuff. I think a lot of the stuff that they do in the world of wikis is terrible. I think that they are a factory for garbage in a general sense. And so I think that they are a net negative when it comes to providing gaming information online, because of just how bad their websites are, and the things they've done to independent wiki creators and all of this other stuff. I think there's kind of a long list of like things they've done that make finding information about games online way worse. And so, as someone who founded a website around trying to make a cool and good wiki about video games, the idea that website had fallen into the hands of a company like Fandom did not sit well with me. It was sad. Though I will give Fandom credit, they did, and this is this is stuff that we probably won't talk about much with Dan, because I imagine, because look, they're not going to let this happen without people signing paperwork that says, please don't talk shit about us. Legally, please don't talk shit about us. And so I doubt that this is stuff we will get into. But here, before he joins the show, I can freely say, fuck those guys. But also, they did this thing. They did this one thing that I think is very self-serving for them, but also the right move, insofar as they managed to sell Giant Bomb to the people that were creating content for it. And so it is now once again an independent operation. I have a ton of nuts and bolts and very esoteric questions that also we probably won't get into at this time, because I think they've owned it for about 4 days now. But they're in the process of figuring all of that out now. And I think that's cool. I think it is very smart for Fandom, a company that was probably starting to feel the heat on this stuff as things were going bad for them. It was not a good PR situation that Fandom was doing this. It is not the first time that Giant Bomb has been in a position to leverage a bad PR situation for its benefit, I will say. And so, being able to bully executives into specific actions based on like, hey, this is really gonna go fucking bad for you. I don't think that so they did the right thing, and I think it's the right thing for Fandom and their brands, and it's definitely the right thing for a continued Giant Bomb. I think whatever, like, those guys would have done their thing one way or the other, I think. And so at some point, like the brand is just a name on the door, and it could be anything, like that stuff is sort of, I'm a little ambivalent about it in that sense. Like, it's cool that those guys are sticking together regardless of what the name of the thing is. But it's cool that they were able to, wrestle control of this thing away from a company that I don't think was ever going to do anything meaningful or good with it. That it was not the thing that they were buying. They were buying GameSpot, and they were buying it for like $1. The previous owners over at Red Ventures were not exactly capitalizing on GameSpot.com in an effective way. I mean, they bought CNET, and they have since sold CNET to Ziff Davis, the company that owns IGN now. So it's not like any of those websites that got purchased from CBS Interactive were like benefited greatly from the sale, other than in the concept of like, well, had they not been sold, CBS simply would have shut them down. And so the sale was necessary for anything to continue at all in a general sense, right? And so this is good for fandom in that they were able to spin this in a positive way on the way out and say we've sold it to the independent creators that did this thing, and it's like that. I think that's cool, and I think it's very smart because fandom was, whatever. You don't need this to drag fandom's name through the mud, I guess is my point. But this was extra muddy for them, and it's probably for the best that they realized that and got the fuck out. Fat Scout asks, do you think CBS would have ever considered a similar move? No, because I tried to buy it from CBS. I was in the middle of an angry meeting with a general manager and talking about the future of the website and like all of this other stuff and my position there and all of this other shit. And everything was a mess. It was very clear that they were not, that they were, that they were not going to invest in it the way that I wish that they would. And, that's neither right nor wrong. They have a lot of things that they could invest in. And like in the middle of this somewhat heated conversation, someone said like, oh, well, what about, I don't know, maybe maybe you could buy it at some point. And I just stopped and said, really? Would you do that? Because I could go right now and start trying to round up money. There's a baby over here. Hi, baby. Hello. Oh, you sick little boy. You got your tissue? Blow your nose. Blow your nose, you little sickie. See you later. So I seized on that when he said maybe they would sell it to you. And I asked around a little bit and said like, hey, do you think that you would be interested in maybe, funding this, or, what would be the process? I talked to some friends and some other folks about like, what would this look like? And it was very early. Like, it was never like a serious conversation. It was just like, realistically, do you think that this could ever happen? And it was like, maybe. I don't know why you would do it. Maybe. And so I went back to them like the following week and was like, so were you serious about wanting to sell it? Because I'm starting to talk to people. And they were like, oh, no, not at all. No. Look, man, CBS never sells anything. They would never sell it because they would constantly be afraid that you would go do better with it somewhere else and make them look bad in the process. It's like, fuck this. God damn it. What the fuck am I doing with my fucking life working for this godforsaken fucking hell? And so that was the end of that. And that's a very common sentiment across a lot of bigger companies, right? They don't want to look bad. That's the worst possible thing. And so, fandom was starting to look bad in this particular situation. I mean, I think they look bad every day, but in this particular case, they were looking even worse. And so good on them for figuring out the right thing to do was to divest themselves of this thing that they don't actually care about in the first place, and giving these guys a shot. And now they own it, and we'll see how that goes. I think that's pretty nuts. and good on them. So that happened in the news. We did not talk about Polygon last week. I feel a little guilty about that because, but I have such a personal attachment to the other half of the shutdown news last week. But obviously Polygon has been sold, and most of the writing talent that was on Polygon no longer have jobs, and they're trying to find stuff, and I think that's a pretty disgusting situation. They got sold to a creepy, they got sold to some factory that's going to, turn out probably a bunch of AI garbage. And so like Polygon will probably stay up and whatever content is appearing on. There's like a handful of people that are still at Polygon. And I think some people, that were maybe not like content people directly were moved onto The Verge. And so there's other stuff like that. But like Valnet, the company that bought them, I don't think they have a great track record for the stuff that they own. And so, the future of that seems very bad. I don't know. Like it feels like the best case scenario for Polygon is that it gets resurrected in a similar way to whatever the hell Waypoint is now, or just Vice in general, and not just Waypoint. I don't know. Like Vice is just a general brand and concept is such a weird freaking disaster. But like specifically, like I don't know, that stuff's kind of nasty. So I think you got to take the victories where you can in this sector, and so it's cool that Giant Bomb has been sold off and made independent. I'm curious to see what they do with it. And because I'm someone who knows where a lot of the bodies are buried when it comes to that thing as a business and what it takes to run it and how much it costs to run it, and what it costs to keep that website up and the years of video and this and that. There's just a lot of stuff. And so if you're 5 people, which is a lot of people, running this thing, how do you make that work? So yeah, we'll see. And we'll have Dan Ryckert on in a little while here. We'll chat with him about a variety of topics. But like I said, I cannot imagine that any of them are in a position to get into some of the specific conversation about their previous employer. What else? Tony Hawk. Have you heard of this guy? He's a skate man. They're re-releasing this Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 3+4 thing pretty soon. It's got an early July release date here. They showed it off apparently in Los Angeles, which would have been nice to know about beforehand, but hey. There's been a lot of talk about some of the changes they may or may not make in the kind of single player mode of Tony Hawk 4. Because Tony Hawk 4 changed the career mode in pretty dramatic ways. It got away from the 2-minute timer to these more kind of objective specific timers. Like, oh, you start this event and then a new timer starts and you go and do it. And the word leaked out, I think a while ago, that people are like, hey, it sounds like the Tony Hawk 4 is not going to have the same campaign. They're maybe going to cram it into this 2-minute timer or whatever the heck they're doing. Around that, and that was met with I don't know. I would be interested in seeing something new, to be honest, to see them do something new with some of the Tony Hawk 4 levels and objectives and whatever else. But at the same time, I do think that it's kind of a shame that they are not able to recreate this thing in a traditional form. On social media, they got out there. It was like a couple of weeks ago. And they were like, who said that there was going to be no Tony Hawk 4 campaign? And gave people a bunch of hope about what it was going to be. And people were like, oh, they are going to do it. I bet Tony Hawk put his foot down and said, you can't do it. But then they had this event and people have gotten a look at it. And no, it's not. They're not. This is from videogameschronicles.com. Videogameschronicle.com's write-up of this of some of this reveal here. And so it is exactly what you thought. The objectives have been mainly removed or refitted into the 2-minute format, which is, yeah, that's kind of what everyone thought that they were going to be doing, is kind of going with something that felt more like the Tony Hawk 3 campaign in terms of length and how it all works or whatever. But then it says, following a recent preview event for the game, footage has now been shared confirming that the in-game timer can be extended to 10 minutes or an hour. And so you can still spend a ton of time on the Tony Hawk 4 maps if you want to, but that doesn't bring back the objectives that they have changed or removed. You know what I mean? I think that's kind of cool. And hopefully they let you do that for the Tony Hawk 3 maps as well. Like if you could just set the timer to an hour, I would actually be very interested to see leaderboards for a 1 hour run in a Tony Hawk 3 level. But it's not the thing. This doesn't do the thing that people actually want. This is not them putting all of the objectives in Tony Hawk 4 back in. It sounds like that they are still these kind of refitted and reworked goals from that game, and not the original campaign. And so that kind of defeats that's not the point. That's not the thing that people were bummed out about. But also, I bet with the budget that they were under and the time that they had, it's very possible for them to go, what if we made it so you could be in there for an hour? As opposed to, oh, what if we spent way more money, took way more time, delayed the game, and did this, and and so I'm just guessing for the scope of this production and all of the things that they originally greenlit this project around, like none of that makes any sense for them to go and do without significantly reworking everything from the budget to the time to everything, right? And so I guess I'm not like shocked by it. And again, like this might not necessarily be a bad video game. It's just a thing that you look at and go like, oh, well, if the goal was to, remake these games in their original form, you're no longer doing that. And also, who knows that this extended timer thing is necessarily a reaction to people wanting to do the Tony Hawk 4 campaign. It might have just been a separate idea that they had as like a fun little thing. I just hope they do leaderboards for those extended timers, because I think that would be really silly. Either way, that game's out on July 11th, which is not too far off. It's not day and date on Switch 2, right? They just kind of announced it for summer or something generic like that. I don't think they said that it's going to be immediately on Switch 2, but that is announced for Switch 2 nonetheless. I lost the rest of my news. Microsoft has announced plans to lay off more employees. This is not just the Xbox division, but it is the entire company. They're looking at a 3% layoff. And they say these are organizational changes necessary to best position the company for success in a dynamic marketplace. That's somewhere in the neighborhood of like 7,000 employees, according to a lot of the reports around this and some of the ways that they've been counting current employees and everything else. Microsoft is such a weird... I mean, obviously, in gaming, Microsoft has a very specific place in this business, but overall, Microsoft just feels like such a strange... They extended out support, I think, for like Office 360 on Windows 10, because they're ending support for Windows 10 in the very near future, and they're just like, you should get Windows 11, even though Windows 11 is not a thing that can run on every single machine that runs Windows 10, because officially they want you to have a TPM module in your in your PC and all this other stuff. And most modern machines do, but like I have a Windows 10 machine. It's not currently in service because the hard drive went bad, and I took that opportunity to retire it. But like I have PCs here that are perfectly viable for playing a lot of video games that are not able to upgrade to Windows 11 and run Windows 10 just fine. This is something that's like kind of whatever right now, but 2 or 3 years down the line of them not supporting Windows 10, is it going to end up like Windows XP? Like it's the whole thing. Like if you connect like a Windows 7. If you connect a Windows 7 machine to the internet, it will just be completely hacked automatically within like an hour of being connected, because there's just so many exploits and horrible shit floating around online that if you connect a machine that old into the internet, it just like boom, done. And I wonder if Windows 10 eventually gets to that point. If they refuse to do security updates for it going forward, there are still a lot of machines running Windows 10. Again, machines that cannot be upgraded to Windows 11. And their response of like, well, you should buy a new PC sucks. Like that's what an asshole says, especially in an environment where the economy has just kind of taken a big weird shit. And, you know, partially because of, but also in conjunction with tariffs around some of this stuff. Like, you know, it's not as easy to just like go get another fucking computer, you assholes. And so I think that's like a garbage solution. It's a really trashy way for them to handle this. Supposedly they were going to sell extended support contracts for Windows 10. I don't know if they've given any specific details on that. But it was like, oh, if you want to subscribe to updates to Windows 10, you can give us $30 or whatever the hell it was. I think that's just gross. I don't know. Yeah, Windows or Microsoft as a company, it just feels like they're in a very weird place between that and they're like they've invested very heavily into OpenAI and a lot of that stuff, and you know, obviously have not seen a return on that other than, you know, whatever increased cloud usage they've seen, but they've kind of backed out or kind of toned down some of their appetite for building data centers and growing that business. So maybe this is them kind of, you know, at least on the AI front, going like, okay, this is not going to be a thing, at least to the degree that we thought it was. So we need to back off on this. I wish there was an alternative. You know, Microsoft is not a great company across the board for a variety of reasons. But Linux is not where you want it to be, right? It's depending on what games you play. Like I love my Steam Deck. I think the Steam Deck is an incredible fucking device. I think that the ongoing development of the handheld PC space is really fascinating. And I can't wait to see where that goes and how that continues to grow. And I think SteamOS is a really slick way to play video games. However, you know, developers are still not supporting Linux. You know, like there are still games with anti-cheat multiplayer games, popular multiplayer games like a Call of Duty, for example, that you simply cannot play. And I think that a lot of the people that make the move to Linux just go like, oh, well, I wasn't going to play that. Well, fuck you. Millions of people do. So if you want your thing to grow, it needs to play the popular games too, you assholes. And so, you know, when stuff like Destiny 2 doesn't run on a Steam Deck, I think that's just I think that's shitty. And I think that I wish that it was a more popular, like there's a bit of a chicken and egg thing happening, right? Where like if more people were using it, then maybe there would be a way to better investigate and do that. But also, you know, people say like, oh, well, Linux is Linux, and so, you know, we'll never be able to lock this down the way we want to or the way we can with Windows in a way that helps us prevent multiplayer cheating and some of the other stuff that we need to lock down on. stuff that is a very real problem. I mean, there are people cheating in Warzone on Call of Duty. Like, it's a genuine issue. It's not just a theoretical. Like there is a very real cat and mouse game happening in the kind of world of anti-cheat development. And so like from a tech angle, like I understand why they're just like, Linux is a fucking bridge too far. Like we're fucking barely keeping our heads above water focusing on Windows. So like opening it up to that as well, that is a whole new attack surface and this and that, like, that's just I think that's a very hard problem to solve. And so, I feel for the developers that have gone in that direction and have not had their games support Linux yet. But also like we need to, like I think players need an alternative, an alternative to Windows. And we're getting there. Like the interesting, 2025 is not the year of Linux on the desktop, but we're getting closer to the year of Linux plugged into your TV, or Linux in your hand. Yeah, I got my hands full of Linux. It's disgusting. You want to see my package manager? You want to look at my man page? All right. What else is going on? Capcom has had a very good year. Sales are up. They're selling a lot of their old games. They're selling a lot of their new games. Yeah, Capcom Fighting Collection 2 is right around the corner. I've had a copy of that for a while. And that's coming out pretty soon. Monster Hunter Wilds sold over 10 million copies in its first month alone. But also, if you look at their financials, like they're seeing strong sales from a lot of catalog titles. This is, some of this is because they are adjusting price, and they're putting the games on sale and doing good discounts and all this other stuff. But like your friends and mine at VideoGamesChronicle.com have noted that Resident Evil 7 has sold at least 1 million copies a year since it was released. And so it sold another like 1.3 million copies this last fiscal year. And so they've just been, they're fucking killing it, man. Like they're doing great. And one of the interesting things noted here this was part of their financial, their kind of annual earnings reports. Daniel Mott of Nico Partners noted that Capcom's full game sales were 90% digital in this fiscal year, meaning that their full games that they sold this year, not DLC obviously, but just like straight up selling video games, 90% of that was done digitally, 10% physical. Just to do the math for you, in case you were wondering about the health of physical games and all of that. He also notes that, obviously if you were looking at PC, most of those games are only sold digitally. And so Ahmad also notes that if you go console only and kind of filter out the PC, that number drops to 78% digital sales, which is still a very high number. So I think that's something that, again, is a constant conversation. Is a part of this kind of constant conversation we're having around the nature of physical games. Especially in light of the Switch 2 being right around the corner and them basically selling download keys. Doom is a game that apparently has like not anything resembling the entire game on the discs. So when you get the console versions on disc, you are very much downloading like 100 gigs on top of that, from some of the reporting that I've seen. But also 78% of the sales are digital. And so, like physical is going to kind of continue to be treated as this sort of second class citizen in these conversations, because the overwhelming majority of these sales are now digital. And at least for Capcom, we can't necessarily reflect that across the entire business. And again, remember that Capcom does put their games on sale on some of these digital platforms where the games are always in stock. And so they don't necessarily do that physically, because then it's retailers and everything else. So that's certainly going to sway that number in a way that maybe some other publishers might be seeing different percentage breakdowns. But at the same time, I just want to point it out as like I think there are some people who are just like, oh, well, physical is going to hold on forever and this and that. And like, no, like I do think that there will be a need for some kind of physical game for a good long time, because we're still, I mean, shit, they just repealed something that would have made the internet better in rural areas. So that's going to get delayed even further. Here in the States, there was an opportunity to get better internet into some of these farm towns and some of these other places that that need better infrastructure, and apparently that's not going to happen, or at least will not happen yet until someone comes along and fucking fixes it. And obviously other parts of the world, we talk about Australia a lot. There are definitely parts of the world where the internet is not what it needs to be. But it seems like that's we're going to push in this direction one way or the other. And Capcom, and as an aside to this, Capcom seems to be doing quite well. Sega announced plans for the future of Virtua Fighter over the weekend. This was timed to Evo Japan. I was like, why are they doing a thing at 6 a.m. on a Sunday about Virtua Fighter? Who did I fucking piss off that they're doing this? But it was Evo Japan happened, and so I think it was time to all of that. The recent re-release of Virtua Fighter 5, which is called Virtua Fighter 5 Revo, is going to be coming to consoles. They have announced it for PlayStation 5, the current generation of Xbox, as well as the Nintendo Switch 2. They have also said that it is not just going to be a port of that game, but they are going to be adding more to it. It will have cross-platform play and rollback support, which is fucking awesome. I'm very interested to see what I imagine anything they add to it at this point would be like cosmetics or something. It'll just be like, or like maybe a new mode. I don't know. I don't know what the new content would be for yet another re-release of Virtua Fighter 5, but I think they did at least say that there would be some new costumes. That's a great game. The launch on PC was a little weird. Like it had a few kind of somewhat minor issues. Like they could be major issues depending on where you live, but there were some issues with the netcode, or there was issues with matchmaking and a few things that were messed up at launch that I believe they have gotten on top of that. And well, I mean, hopefully, because now they're going to go and release it on more platforms. And yeah, cross play support, rollback netcode. Great. Virtua Fighter 5 for all, for everyone. Everyone needs a copy of VF5. Unless you want to wait for VF6, they announced that Wolf is going to be in VF6. I would expect that everyone would be in VF6 and that they would not scale back the roster, but they did confirm it with a cool trailer of Wolf. And good. I'm not a Wolf player, but awesome. But he still looks really rad. And so I don't know. It's exciting. It's exciting to be talking about a new Virtua Fighter, even in light of how insane and off the rails the initial reveal was for that, and how ridiculous that was. It's cool that we'll hopefully hear more about that in the nearish future. Let's take one more break, and we'll come back and we'll finish up the news and get ready for our guest here pretty soonish, I think. We'll be back in a moment. Are you rocking a set of test? Do you have? You need a place to put your balls? Do you need a spot? Do you need a spot for that? Is your current regiment, is your current deployment of underwear just not getting the job done? It's time to upgrade. MeUndies has the ultramodal ball caddy boxer briefs. It's just a little extra space in there so that your nuts can be your nuts, man. These briefs They're game changers, designed for next level support. No squishing, no sticking, just pure cloud-like comfort. MeUndies has a cut for all kinds of shapes and sizes, over 10 different styles, ranging from boxer briefs to jock straps to even the ball caddy. The ball caddy, which I didn't know what this meant as I was about to read it, and now I'm looking at it and I'm thinking about it and like, oh, I think I do know what that means. It says here they've got their special pouch underwear called ball caddy that keeps you from bat winging ever again. And I'm like, what about like flying around like them in the bat wing? I'm like, oh, what is it? Oh, okay. No, I see ya. I guess. Yeah. Okay. The ball caddy. I got a pair of these. It's very nice underwear. You put these underwear on. They're comfortable. They work. Their fabric is breathable. It is stretchy. It is comfortable. You can wear it all day. If you're the type of person who wants to wear underwear all day, this underwear is up to the challenge and then some. And it's responsibly sourced. They use sustainably sourced material, and they work with partners that care for their workers. They got a problem-free philosophy. So if you're not happy with your first pair of undies, it's on MeUndies. So slide into game-changing comfort with MeUndies right now. Support the show and go to MeUndies.com/Jeff and use the code Jeff to get 20% off your first order plus free shipping. That's MeUndies.com/Jeff, and the code is Jeff for 20% off plus free shipping. MeUndies, comfort from the outside in. SteamOS, we were talking about it earlier. It has grown by leaps and bounds. Valve's development of Proton, which is a layer that kind of helps these Windows games run under Linux, has been nothing short of magic. They are building out, so they've built out tools for the Steam Deck to let you know if a game is Steam Deck compatible or not. And they put little icons. It's something you mainly see on a Steam Deck, but you can enable it in the desktop Steam client as well, which is handy if you are like, oh, I should buy this so I can play it on my Steam Deck later or what have you. They are enhancing and building out the descriptors that they use for that. But previously it was like, oh, this is compatible and it gets a check mark, or it's got a little information thing to let you know, like, this is playable, but there's something funky here. And usually that's like, oh, the text is going to be small on that screen, or you might need a keyboard for certain parts of this game, or it might show the wrong controller icons or whatever. What they're doing now is building out in preparation for devices running SteamOS that are not a Steam Deck. And they are citing the Legion Go S, which they announced back at CES as being a SteamOS Legion Go. And in preparation for that, they're building out a separate tab for what they refer to as SteamOS compatibility. This is an information they put out kind of focused on developers to let developers know, hey, this is something that's coming, that we will let customers know if your game is SteamOS compatible or not. And so the way they framed it here is, if a game and all of its middleware are supported on SteamOS, we will mark it as SteamOS compatible. If not, it's marked as SteamOS unsupported. Please note this rating does not include testing results for performance and input, since we will not know and have not tested how all titles run on potential hardware. We expect over 18,000 titles on Steam to be marked as SteamOS compatible out of the gate. Now, obviously, this is kind of something that they are pulling from their existing data that they are getting about games as they build the compatibility database overall. And so they have a look at like kind of what the new ratings system looks like. And it'll say like, oh, our testing indicates that it is compatible with devices running SteamOS. But that's not something that says it will run well or run, because, it's not something that is checking for the specs of a specific device. That is something they will probably do separately. That's something they already do for the Steam Deck, that I wonder if they will then build out like if you are using a Legion Go S on this device, will they have kind of a separate thing Will Lenovo pay for testing, or how are they? Maybe maybe this is them kind of like washing their hands of it a little bit and saying, we will verify for the Steam Deck, but we are not going to verify for any of these other devices that are coming down the pipe, because realistically they just can't do it, or what have you. Especially as they get to a point where SteamOS is something that they will release for you to install on whatever you've got. As they continue to build out SteamOS, I think that is the eventual goal, is like you could go buy a PC and plug it into your TV and put SteamOS on it and just do it. There's already, like Bazite is another option there that runs a lot of this stuff and is a little early in some ways in terms of user friendliness or whatever, but like it is a cool push in that direction of like, hey, let's get more devices out there that are not running Windows, that are running these games, that are leveraging Valve's work with Proton, the compatibility layer, to run all of this other stuff and kind of get these games up and running on a multitude of devices. And so we'll probably see a scenario where, there will eventually be a device running SteamOS that is powerful enough to run. I'll use it as an example right now. Doom: The Dark Ages, which just came out. They have said that game is not compatible with the Steam Deck. Currently, it has a question mark on it. I actually tried to run it pre-release and it just immediately crashed. But id has gotten, Bethesda, I guess, has gotten out there and said, hey, it does not run on a Steam Deck. That does not meet the minimum system requirements for this game. But over time, as more and more devices start running SteamOS, in theory, there would be a situation where you've got more than enough juice to run a game like Doom. It's just a matter of like, is it compatible with Proton? Is it this? Is it that? And I hope that Steam continues to kind of build out things in that way to let people know, because for the Steam Deck ratings for verification and Steam Deck verification, I think has been really awesome. It's been a really handy way for something that could have been a total shit show, right? Of like, oh, I'm buying a Steam Deck and I don't know, I got to try this game. Like, not every game is verified, so you do still kind of run into this. But, it is this idea of just like, well, is this a game even going to run right on this thing? And who's done the testing? And the early days of the Steam Deck were a lot more Wild West, because that verification process took time and it wasn't happening as readily as maybe it is these days. And so you would have these situations, especially if you were trying to do weird shit. Like when I was trying to install the Epic Game Store so that I could play Rumbleverse on a Steam Deck, which worked until they broke the anti-cheat. Those were the days, man. The true Wild West. Anyway, the more information is good on this. They're saying that when people use a SteamOS device that is not a Steam Deck, they will see the SteamOS compatibility results. So that's, sorry, it sounds like that is a situation where that they perhaps will not be breaking out device specific stuff going forward for some of these other devices. They will continue to do Steam Deck verification, and all of that stuff is staying there. But it sounds like Valve is not signing up to verify all of these other clients going forward. I would love to see some kind of option, whether it's a community option, which is maybe not the best way to do it, but like if Lenovo, for example, came in and said, we would love to fund a program to say these games are Lenovo Legion Go S verified. And we would love to be able to present that sort of stuff. There are community efforts that already do this with the Steam Deck and some other devices, and so there's actually probably stuff that if Lenovo wanted to leverage a specific SteamOS plugin or something to that effect to get there, that maybe they could do that with the community. But yeah, I don't know. This is it's an interesting development that I think it shows signs of what we all knew was coming, right? The Legion Go S was announced back at CES, and we knew that they were going to get into more hardware as well as, people running it on their own. And so having this kind of additional, like, yes, this can run successfully on Steam OS, is a good little a good little addition for those of you that are really on the edge doing weird shit with installing Steam OS on strange devices, or just, hey, you're just buying a freaking Lenovo Legion Go S. Tekken 8 has been being dragged through the dirt lately. As a result of some balance changes that they made, and they are trying to fix it desperately. The Harada has gotten online and said, "Hey, we were using we had a different balance team come onto the game, and this team was they're cool, it was different people, and oh god, it's on fire, holy shit." And they have basically gotten the launch balance team back onto it, and they are now working to kind of unfuck where it is. I can't really be specific. Like, I played some Tekken 8 on the other side of these changes, but it had been a long time since I had checked it out, and it led to a situation where like it just wasn't working. Like it was working fine, or like I was not able to see what was broken about Tekken 8. Let's go live to the scene now. Dan Ryckert, what's broken about Tekken 8? What the hell is wrong with it?
I just heard that they are not playing ball with Waffle House. Or actually, I guess no. What's wrong is Waffle House. Mm-hmm. The problem is not with Tekken 8. Tekken 8 has the greatest of intentions, from my understanding.
Yeah. Do you think that if they went with the proposed Hustle House option of a bootleg Waffle House background, do you think that would satisfy the people that have been demanding a Waffle House background for all this time?
It's better than nothing. But I think having that, look, there's iconic logos throughout the history of branding in restaurants and roadside wrestler frequented establishments. But I think the Waffle House with the yellow tiles, I think that is unmistakable when you're driving down I-35 at 3 a.m. Yeah. I think you kind of got to have that.
Yeah. Would you ever consider losing a championship title belt at a Waffle House? Would you ever consider leaving it in a car or getting a car stolen at the Whiz Waffle his house?
Nothing lower than a Longhorn Steakhouse.
Fair enough. All right.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah.
All right. Dan Ryckert has joined us, owner of GiantBomb.com.
Yeah, that's a true statement that you just said. You're not lying.
I think everyone knew it was always going to go that way. It was like, somehow Dan's going to end up owning this fucking shit show.
I don't know how the fuck that all shook out the way it did, but it sure did, didn't it?
Yeah, I guess so.
Boy, yeah.
So, what's it like to cause enough of a problem that they have to sell a website?
Look, there's no strategy involved.
What?
Sometimes things just happen. I don't know.
Yeah.
And sometimes it shakes out where you're one of 5 co-owners of a beloved gaming brand. And that's where we're at right now.
Yeah. So you've had quite the 2 weeks. You and I have been talking quite a bit over those last couple of weeks as things have gotten very interesting. And then everything went quiet for a while. And in my mind, I was like, shit, they're going to sue him.
Oh, you went to suing before me owning it.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
That does seem more likely.
Yeah, it was just like, okay, like Dan has gone remarkably quiet. I should probably call him because we don't want to write anything down.
Right.
No records.
Right.
And then right as I was like, fuck, I got to call Dan, I saw you guys all post, watch this PAX panel. And then I was like, huh, okay. And then I went to bed, and I was laying in bed. It took me about 5 minutes. And I was like, oh fuck, they sold them the website. Like I put it together, like it just, all I had to do was lay down and go, oh shit, they fucking
now
sold
looking
them
at the fan.
Basically, yeah. It was like, they sold them the website. That's fucking crazy. And then I was busy when the panel was on, so I was just looking at Discord, and sure enough, about 4:15, I saw people laughing and going, oh, I can't believe they sold them the website. And I was like, yeah, all right, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I wanted to have enough mystery with the synchronized post and everything.
Yeah.
I knew because people knew there was quite a bit of public stuff going on
Was there?
in the last couple. Yeah, there was some stuff
okay.
going on
Yeah.
that I think if people saw everyone, including people that had publicly said they're not with the company anymore, suddenly said, "Hey, check out this panel," that might raise some questions. So yeah. So that went all right.
Yeah, yeah. And how's that been? What's it like owning a website in this day and age?
I mean, yeah, I could talk about all this stuff and all the business stuff and the legalities and all that, but the reality is the Jeffs have been managing so much of that, and they've had to. I mean, technically, like you saw the press release, it was like technically, they were the first out the door, and so the sale was to them. And then once all this stuff kind of shakes out and everything, then we'll be the 5 co-owners. There's just a lot of accounts and lawyer stuff and stuff like that. But so I'm not going to sit here and act like, boy, let me tell you about running a company. Like, no, it's the Jeffs have been doing like the bulk of the work. Yeah,
and also even still, you're like 4 days in, so it's not like
right.
Yeah.
So I mean, we're hitting the ground running in terms of like content and stuff like that, which feels great. So it's like there's just no barrier between us and the audience now. It's kind of like when I first came onto Giant Bomb, and like a lot of what I was doing was like coming up with premium stuff, because the premium approach back then was we're gating stuff behind premium, and so that's most of my early stuff with like Metal Gear and Mario Party was just like, oh, what would the audience like? And this is kind of feeling like it's harkening back to that, where it's like, oh, okay, we don't really have to worry about larger corporate strategy and things like that. I just have to listen to the audience and give them what they want. So it's like, you've been talking about Quick Looks for a while. I've been talking about Demo Derby for a while. Like, let's start hitting the ground running with this stuff. So feels good.
Yeah, that's awesome. That it's there's a real I mean, I experienced this to great effect a few years ago, but like there is when a lot of the clutter and horse shit and people get the fuck out of the way, it's much easier to just like kind of do the thing. And that was always the best part about the job, is doing the fucking thing, not sitting in meetings talking about if we're going to do the thing, or can I get some money to do the thing, or it's just like, nope, here's what we got, okay, let's go and do it.
Yeah, and it feels awesome for me because, like, I don't know, that is the thing I am confident that I do well, is like I can make the thing. I'm not a business person. I'm not a marketing person. Like, I can do my best to learn things. I'm definitely picked things up, like streaming from home since the pandemic and all that stuff. I've learned a lot, but ultimately, I still think where I shine is like making fun stuff for audience that likes watching fun video game stuff. So, like, that's what I'm doing. So,
yeah, I think that's pretty straightforward. So, yeah, I mean, good luck on all of that, because I think the deeper you get into all of the fucking what it means to actually run that particular website, holy shit.
Sure. Yeah, it's going to be a process and everything, but so far, like the support, the enthusiasm, it's been very, very good start. But we're just a few days in, but it's going to be fun.
Cool.
Yeah.
So these Taco Bell chicken nuggets, what the fuck is going on? Like, I get that everyone has to, especially in these trying times where everything is $1 zillion. Everyone has to find ways to try to like slip people into their restaurant and get them to buy stuff. What are your thoughts on this as something of a Taco Bell aficionado? I feel like the chicken nuggets are like a very off-brand kind of thing for them to do.
No, I totally disagree. I deeply disagree. There's something just right with the universe, I think, and that like Taco Bell can now be my favorite nuggets and fries place on top of all the things I already love them for. And I do think I'm kind of an authority on this, because I'm one of the few people I think that's been part of all 3 waves of the Taco Bell nuggets. So Minneapolis is a test market for Taco Bell. So we got it like a year and a half, 2 years ago. And of course, I got it numerous times that first time. They had the Bell sauce. They had all that stuff ready to go right out the gate. But I do think it's like, with it being a test market, I do think that first wave was the best, because I had to, like, I think they were trying to like impress, like, hey, check out this new thing.
Right.
It's not, in every restaurant already. And so I was raving about them. They were fantastic. I think they were like the best fast food nuggets. And then the second wave was kind of disappointing when they brought them back again,
And that was the nationwide wave. That was the
nationwide
first time they were out. Yeah.
Yep. Limited, it was for a couple weeks or something. And I got it for that. And it's just, I door dashed them. So I don't know if it was like, maybe it was just like I was the third delivery or something, but they were just a little cold. They were a little tough. And I didn't love it. And then I got it again on this most recent wave. And I'm back to like, it wasn't as good as the first wave, but I think these are a solid 8.5 to 9 right now.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll go a Game Informer scale, 8.75.
Okay.
But it's got that like jalapeno cheddar breading situation going on. And then the bell sauce is tremendous. I think there's the right amount of like the ratio of chicken to the breading is very good. And there's a crunch factor to the breading that I think is better than McDonald's nuggets. I would say getting closer to like Popeye's nuggets because Popeye's pretty solid.
Popeyes
nugget
makes a solid nugget. Yeah.
Yes.
Yes. There's a thick crust on these things. That I feel like I've had these somewhere else before, but I can't place like what other restaurant had nuggets that were very specifically like I wanted to say KFC, which would make sense because it's the same, the same corporation owning both. But I don't remember KFC nuggets being specifically like this.
Are you thinking of maybe like almost like a popcorn nugget situation, like that
sort
level of breading, where it's
yeah.
like you're getting through like a good like quarter of an inch of breading before you hit the chicken, and that to me it makes me think popcorn shrimp, popcorn nuggets.
Yeah, and I think these work because there's chicken in there, whereas I'm not a popcorn chicken guy because there's just not enough chicken.
Sure.
And so I think these work on that level. I don't remember like off the top of my head what the bell sauce was, but I remember reading what it was and going, oh, I don't want that.
I'm glad I didn't read it because anytime I read ingredients on like a sauce, it usually says something like mayonnaise that scares me, and then I can never have it again, or sour cream. Do you think as fast food technology and trends go forward, are we going to get to a point, and I pray that we do, that we do something like a Taco Bell nugget, but it's all nugget, no chicken? Like all breading? Because like I think where I want this to eventually go.
I think that from a technological perspective, I think that it would be difficult to maintain the consistency on that breading all the way through. You would almost go like soft, like a hush puppy in the middle.
Could you put like a Tootsie Roll Pop situation in the middle?
You you could. Yeah.
If you just want something soft, just to like give it that structural integrity of I don't want full on chicken,
Sure. I think you could probably do it. And I feel like this country, like, yes, I do think that someone will eventually broach that and be like, it's all breading, baby. You like, in that you eat the bones kind of, like that type of horse shit.
It's like the double down sandwich where they did the chicken thing where it's like the breading instead of buns, it's chicken. Like I think if they introduced that, it would actually do very, very well.
Yeah. I think it would also like that's probably would kill people, right? I mean, that's probably not. Like that's as deep fried food goes. That there's probably something, but like whatever, man. You go to a county fair, you get fried dough.
You get fried sticks of butter.
Exactly. Yeah, it's the same shit.
Surely, at some point, I told you the story about how I was supposed to be the face of the double down sandwich at KFC.
No,
like for the advertising campaign. This is new to you?
No, I don't think. No,
and it was like maybe the number one catalyst of me leaving Game Informer and coming to work for you, because. Me and Tim Turry started that argument about boneless chicken wings versus whatever, and I was just tweeting at wrestlers and trying to get like Scott Hall and Gangrel to chime in, and Road Dogg, and a lot of them did. Yeah. And then other people in the games industry started picking up on it and everything, and it just turned into this big, like it was like the number one trending thing.
I do remember that. I remember that.
So this all came
thinking
from
that was very stupid.
It was very, very stupid. Yes, and so
I think I remember seeing that and be like, man, this Dan Ryckert guy, he's all right. He's all right at Call of Duty, and this is some real stupid shit.
It was incredibly stupid, but it did kind of directly lead to me working for you.
Yeah,
So that got me in with the KFC people because I didn't even realize they were doing like a boneless chicken item or something at the time.
Yeah.
So they reached out to me because me and Tim started that trend, and they gave me like a back of the book cover quote for like the Colonel officially gave me a quote for Air Force Gator 2. And then like, I think it was a couple months later or something, the KFC people that had talked to me during that, because they sent the office like a shit ton of KFC boneless, like all the Game Informer got loaded up on boneless chicken from this thing.
Yeah.
And they said they were launching the Double Down sandwich. I probably still have these emails. And they were going to do a nationwide, I think it might have been like 2012 because they wanted to do it like an election themed deal. And they were going to have me be like a guy campaigning for like the Double Down sandwich. So it was going to be like mock, like kind of like, speeches and stuff, like political speeches with me, extolling the virtues of the Double Down. And I was like, fuck, yes, I want to. And I said, well, I got to make sure, I got a day job here at Game Informer. So I got to make sure, if they'd be okay shooting, outside, like on the weekends and stuff like that. And they seemed amenable to that. And then I talked to people at Game Informer about it and was told like, no, you can't do that. I was like, You're not going to let me be the face of the double down chicken sandwich. This wonderful offer is in front of me that sounds so fun and will make me money. And they told me, no, you can't do it. And I was like, I'm out of here. And I think I called you up.
Yeah. Yeah, that was I remember. Yeah, I remember all of your questions in that process of bringing you on, being very specifically around like, and you'd be cool if I did some like if I wrote a book or some shit, if I did this, you'd be all right with that. And I was like, yeah. I mean, yeah.
And I got to do all of it, and it was great. So,
yeah.
Yes.
Yes. So yes, naturally ridiculous. What have you been keeping busy with? I mean, okay. Actually, the question I have. You were faced with the ultimate decision recently. You were faced down with you had to make the toughest call. You, Dan Ryckert, a man I know to have said, I intend to go to every WrestleMania until the day I die.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And then suddenly on the table, a trip to go to see Hideo Kojima's new game, as well as his studio, as well as him, I assume.
Yeah.
What was that like? What was running through your head in terms of that? Was that a tough decision to make? Did you have to sell WrestleMania travel packages?
No, because I haven't paid for WrestleMania since 35, the one Becky won. Because I worked there for several of them, and then I did the media situation and covered it for work the last couple times. So, and full transparency, I also don't even know if that was going to be on the table because that company is now the purse strings are so tight now because they are actually selling tickets. So people who have hooked me up with free tickets to wrestling for a decade plus suddenly are people that are on the roster, maybe current champions and stuff.
Sure.
Were not able to get comps. And I've talked to friends that were behind the scenes. And it's the whole comp system changed once they're actually selling out buildings and stuff like that. So,
of course.
AEW, I'm able to get comps pretty easy now. But WWE, boy, those TKO dudes are a different breed. So
it's like a Nintendo Switch 2 over there.
Yes,
in terms of getting comps.
Yeah. Okay. Yes. Absolutely.
Yeah.
I don't even know if I had a road to WrestleMania for myself. I didn't know,
of course.
But then once talk of this trip came up, it's okay, well, even if I stopped pursuing WrestleMania access once I heard this was possible, because for one, also the build was not that hot. I thought Cena Cody was supposed to be this. When the heel turn happened, I thought this is going to be a massive, massive deal.
Yeah.
And then it's there's just weeks where they're not together, and then when they are, they're in Europe, and it's Cena's not. I kind of got what they were trying to do with him not changing. I didn't change, you change. I'm going to keep my music, but I think it would have been a little more interesting if he changed things up ultimately. And then the match itself sucked ass. But
the match was that was the only match I saw. Because I checked that this was a year. I've done this multiple years where it's the Royal Rumble. The quality of the Royal Rumble dictates if I'm going to stick with WWE or not. And that show, I came out of it just going nah, I don't want to. I don't care about where they're at right now. And it was that first Netflix show where they ran the big trailer up front about and then we tell stories. And we do basically
is that an Unreal show.
Yeah. They're doing that too. They haven't. I think it's not on yet. But
you're saying the thing.
I'm saying the first
Raw,
the actual Raw. That
where
first
Triple
Raw,
H,
where it's Triple H just saying all this shit is fake, and also
the shoot and the work.
Yeah.
Who would
and then
say that?
and then the Rock comes out and literally tries to suck the head of Netflix's cock in the middle of the ring. For a 10 minute, and you're just what the fuck am I watching?
Yeah, there is something about it has always been in the DNA of that company to use from the first WrestleMania with Muhammad Ali and Cyndi Lauper and all that celebrities, but there is something different about there is a power of bringing in celebrities to do matches and things like that. But it is the manner in which they're doing it now, where it's why are we cutting to the fucking investors and having Rock ruin the entire character and everything? And I don't know, not to be too IWC about this or anything, but it just felt fucking weird that we've got Punk versus Rollins, this match they built up to for so long, as this afterthought to constantly having to brag about how it feels so pathetic. As successful as they are, to have all these commercials where it's Triple H being in case you haven't heard, we're popular now. Do you know how popular we are? We're WWE's on fire. We're popular. And then on the actual show itself, not during a press conference, not during an investor call, but to talk about numbers, and it's just it reeks of desperation. It really does. Despite the fact that for once they don't really have to be. For the first time since the Attitude Era, they're by all metrics doing great. You just don't have to fucking like act like you've been there, you know?
Yeah. Because they have, and I think like there's a real thing specifically with The Rock where when The Rock comes back and plays the character of The Rock in an era where everyone else comes off much more naturally and realistic.
Yep.
He just seems like the worst cartoon character in the world, like interacting with these guys, and you're just like, this is some bad fucking TV, man.
It was so bad when he was feuding with Punk like over a decade ago, because Punk, especially at that time, felt like a very real character and everything. And The Rock came out with this sing along stuff, and it was like, do you remember he was like, I'm gonna, you got all these tattoos. You got your Hershey bars on your left side. You got your Crunch bars on your right, which I don't even know what maybe it was a Pepsi reference or something.
Like he just didn't want to say Pepsi or whatever.
And he said, I'm gonna bring up he did the thing too where he's like trying to trigger chants, which also is lame. He's like, I'm gonna bring up something right now that's gonna follow you for the rest of your career. Cookie puss. And it's like they kind of did it just because The Rock was asking for it, and it never happened once again. Like that was such a stark, like, oh, okay, this is Rock trying to do 1999 rock shtick versus like Punk. Yeah, it was
terrible,
and it's only gotten I'll say the final boss stuff. Some of that final boss when he's actually being a heel, like Cody in the rain, blooding him up, stuff like that. Like some of that worked, but The Rock's nuts now.
Yeah, and so just the idea of him even being a part of it with the way he is just seems like such terrible fucking television. And between that and then making SmackDown longer, I was just like, I can't. So
happened.
So I just don't. I don't watch it. I'm not watching any WWE right now, and it feels like I forget. Like they were like, oh, Backlash happened. I'm like, oh, really? Huh? Weird.
Yeah, I rarely like watch the week-to-week shows because usually like, Friday nights I'm streaming or something. Monday night I might be doing something Bianca or doing a podcast. So I keep up on it the way I always have. Like I follow the industry. I know what's going on, but like the PLEs, I typically do watch those. Like I watched it at the airport coming back from PAX the other night on an iPad, but I'll watch it. I'm curious. It's just there's a lot of things they're doing well right now, but there's also just so many things that I'm like, boy, I don't know if this is the wrestling I want to see,
Yeah, I think it's just, for me, it's reached a point with the storyline and the storytelling that I can't. Like there's a bunch of people there who wrestle really well and are fun to watch and fun characters, but they're just not doing anything that I find interesting at all. And so I've just completely checked out. Meanwhile, like I don't miss any AEW, like with the exception of Ring of Honor, which but like the AEW, like I miss Rampage. I'm like, man, like I wish that there was more AEW on TV or the Dark was back or something like that. Like I've really been enjoying what they've been doing. For a long time.
At the very least, you're going to get really good matches. And that's always been the thing. Doesn't matter if the MJF Devil storyline thing if, the Death Rider stuff is annoying people. It's like, well, you're going to get some Will Ospreay, Kyle Fletcher match that's just like absolute killer. It's they're always good for that. So, I do tend to watch all the AW stuff I can. Yeah.
Yeah. It's been an interesting, that's been a real interesting business now, I think, for like these last 5 years or something, just watching all this stuff unfold and like I've gotten so, I mean, I have like so little patience for, and here we are doing it, but also so little patience for people talking about wrestling on the internet because it's gotten so fucking bad.
The talk?
Yes. Yeah. Whether it's like, old wrestler does podcast or just like the general, like
Joey Janela killed Sabu.
Oh my God, dude. What the fuck? It's like these people won't let anyone have any agency. It's like, do you think that Sabu is a grown-up who can make his own decisions and maybe has not always made the smartest ones?
Yeah,
you
think maybe probably been much higher than he was during that match.
It's like, I don't know, man. Yes. But do you think that Joey Janela will go full carny and start wearing T-shirts that say "I killed Sabu"?
Oh, that might be a bridge too far for Janela.
Like even for Janela, maybe that's a little too much. But
I'm trying to think of who is further down that carny rabbit hole that would actually do that. Right. I think like maybe some of those guys from like, was it XPW that they tried to like revive XPW?
Yeah, right.
Maybe XPW would say like, we killed Sabu. Yeah.
Maybe Atticus Cogar would do it.
Yeah.
The final nail.
Of course.
Yeah.
It's always my least favorite indie gimmick was always just the like, it's like a bunch of dorks loved Fallen Angel, Chris Daniels, and then like, I can't tell you how many indie shows I've seen where it's like, I'm the prophet and I dress like the Matrix. And it's like, okay. All right, great.
Oh, Jesus Christ. Yeah. Yeah, that is truly some of the fucking worst shit.
And it still happens now.
I know. Like
It's
people
amazing.
are still like there's just a real like lack of, I mean, like the Midwest is still there, and it's still like that's the only take I can have on it is like there must just be people in the Midwest that still think that shit is rad.
I think most of it's moved on though now from like kind of spooky, kind of pseudo religious, pseudo Matrix to now it's just dudes that look like Joe Gacy.
Yep.
You know, or it's just like, I just got a bunch of tatters and shit. Like my clothes are all fucked up. Like that's kind of the thing now. And like you can like take a chainsaw to my head.
Right. My clothes are all fucked up. And if you took like 20 of these sharp wooden things and stuck them in me, wouldn't that look crazy? I was like, yeah, it did the first time I saw someone do it. But like then the 6 months after where everyone was doing it for a bit, I was like, ugh.
Yeah, I was never a big deathmatch guy anyway. And like now you see like the gimmicks they have to do. And it's just like, all right, just like, yeah, the skewers thing was like,
yeah,
I guess that's what we're doing now on that scene. And I'm still not really into this.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it makes sense that you wouldn't be into it. I mean, you're established. I mean, you know, you have like 2 Ribera jackets now. So you're one of these guys. Yeah, I was going to say, you're going to have to start a podcast right now where you're like, these guys, we used to tell stories, brother.
It's pretty cool, right?
Yeah. So is the second one better quality than the first?
It is. So the first one, I think, when Mark McDonald helped set me up with the first one, I think they were suspicious because it was just like I had to show them a bunch of pictures with me with wrestlers. And to be fair, we were lying the first time.
Oh, yeah.
Mark McDonald was helping me translate to lie and say that I worked there and showing Mark photos of me with wrestlers. So I think they gave me the shitty one because it was like a different, it's definitely not the sheen that you're used to seeing on it.
Yeah.
And it had like a big like logo of a Minneapolis gym on the back, which I always thought was weird.
Oh.
But this time I went and I had actual photos of me like backstage at Mania in a suit with like a, you know, so like I actually could be like, I worked there, you know, and so now I got the real deal.
Nice.
Yeah. So did Marcus Stewart from Game Informer, and I think he didn't have to show anything. The guy literally took us around the back to an alley, and we had to take like a side entrance into the Ribera and paid them also. So,
okay. All right.
Yes,
So they sold you the jackets.
Yes, I don't remember. I don't think we paid the first time. So I think at this point they were like, I don't know what this dude's deal is. He might be full of shit, but a couple marks, we'll get a
Too many fucking marks. Yeah. Okay.
Yep,
all right. No, whatever, man. I would do the same thing.
Yeah,
I would buy a nice Ribera jacket. I think that would be very funny to have one. So,
yes, of course.
So I cannot blame you.
Thank you.
On that front whatsoever. There's been a fair amount of talk about anime on the internet lately.
Yeah. I've even been contributing. I've been watching some anime on my own time, not related to any work stuff.
It's something I might expect out of an anime expert. What have you been looking at lately?
Well, if you remember back when we did the anime panel at AnimeCon.
Yes.
When
we were invited guests to speak at AnimeCon.
Yes.
Yes.
I remember talking about how like I like training montages and kind of Rocky style stuff, and somebody in the audience yelled like, "That's literally what Hajime no Ippo is." And I did find out at PAX East that person in the crowd was anime YouTuber Super Eye Patch Wolf. That yelled that at us back then, and has since become this huge YouTube anime guy. Very, very wonderful guy too. I spent a lot of time talking to him at PAX. But yeah, I've heard enough people bring up.
Is he an anime expert? Was he ever been cited by an anime convention? Okay, all right, okay. Then I respect him.
I think he has to. He's also does wrestling videos as well. So you know he's
okay. So he's an anime expert. Okay, okay,
absolutely.
Great. Awesome.
And speaking of that is what kind of got me to finally watch Hajime no Ippo. Is I heard that Kenny Omega and Takeshita in that recent match, their gear was a tribute to that. And I was like, okay, I've heard this for like 10 years now that I need to watch this, and everyone just says it's Rocky. And so, I did load up my iPad with it for Flight Out to the Kojima flight. I just watched a bunch of it, and that's become my like go-to flight show. And I've been flying a lot lately, and that's just what I do now is watch Hajime no Ippo. I'm like 18 episodes in now.
Yeah.
And I gotta be honest, it's really fucking good. It is very Rocky, and it's weird because it's like it's just Rocky. So it's just this constant, like, you know how Dragon Ball would have like training, getting ready for the tournament or something, and then like 3 episodes of the fight. I mean, it kind of does that with this. But then it's like whenever they're between fights, a lot of it is just about how big Ippo's cock is.
Great.
It's an ongoing thing now. They'll be like training, and then he'll go back into the locker room, and somebody will just like pants him. And every time his dick is exposed, it just plays an elephant sound effect, and everyone's like making fun of him because he's got a big cock, and he's like embarrassed by it. So he's always like, "Oh, geez," and it's like he's gonna go on a date, and he's like, "Oh, we're gonna tell her about your thing." He's like, "Oh no!" It's like, so I don't quite maybe the 80s was a different time. I don't know. Maybe
culturally,
big cocks weren't. Yeah.
No, big cocks weren't in. Now I've seen a lot of movies from the 80s. I'm pretty sure they were.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
So a lot of films. I've watched a lot of tape.
Yeah, it's basically he looks like Little Mac. So if Little Mac had a huge cock and just started, oh, that was in the Wii one, right? The cutscenes.
Yeah, exactly.
That's right. Yeah, that's right.
And then he just breaks it out. Yeah.
Yeah, elephant sound effect. Yeah.
You hit the select key and Doc is there and there's all.
Of course, and he's helping you out. Yeah, of course. Yes. So yeah, that's a good one. But we've flirted with the idea of talking about anime, me and you.
Yeah. People have been asking about it, and I guess I don't know. We didn't talk about this ahead of time, but I guess should probably say yes.
Yeah, with the caveat that there's a lot of things going on right now.
Yes.
But I would like to, by the end of this year, maybe even like by the end of summer or so, like, we won't put a specific time frame on it now, but like sooner rather than later. I'd say once things kind of, with the Giant Bomb stuff, once we're just kind of running, then I think maybe you and I could seriously start talking about what that looks like. Yes. I've heard there's more Dragon Ball.
There's quite a lot more.
Yes.
In fact, and I have been like getting my hands on a lot of it for some time now. And so last night I tried to Shazam the All Systems Goku music to figure out what the fuck it is. And it was not in their database.
Weird. Yeah.
Yeah. So I need to figure out where that music lives so that we can relicense it, because I can't imagine you still have a blanket license. You personally. This is not something with any other organization other than you and me.
Yeah.
That we're talking, but neither of us have a license with any royalty-free music shops.
No. Can we do a cover? Can I like have my brother-in-law make a cover of it or something?
That would, maybe. I don't know. I mean, I think it'd be like $100 to license it. So who cares?
Okay.
We just need to figure out what it's called. And I'm pretty sure it has the name Dragon in it. I think that's why I picked it. Is because I was looking through the library and just going like, sure. And I listened to it and said, "Oh, this is terrible. Yeah, no, this is perfect. Yeah, this is exactly what we want to use."
Yeah, that was a really fun podcast. I think we had a natural, like, it didn't end when I left Giant Bomb. I think it
ended because we finished Dragon Ball. Was not
Kai,
Z Kai.
Yeah.
That's what it was. And then started talking about other things. I remember. There was that brief window. So then I had a kid, and suddenly my nights were bonkers. Turns out 5 years later they still are, but it's getting,
when you have more kids, it doesn't make it less bonkers.
No, it turns out.
Okay.
But once you get over 2, it's really just kind of whatever. Like the 1 to 2 is insane. 2 to 3 is just kind of
Well, we just added the cat, and we have 2 dogs, so I assume it's the exact same situation.
Yes, it is exactly.
Same amount of work.
Totally. Yes.
Yep,
everyone is right when they say, "This is my fur babies." Like, yes, you nailed it. It's the exact same situation.
Good to confirm that. Okay.
Yeah. And so that is, I think, why we didn't jump right into something else. And then there was, what was it? Evangelion came out. And I remember I was like, "Oh man, we should do Evangelion." And then you were like, "Oh, I'm going to do that."
I watched for Bianca
for one of my fucking 9 side things I'm doing. I was like, "Oh, okay. Well, I guess fuck that."
Have you seen Evangelion?
No, I still have not.
Hey, my memory sucks shit. I don't remember much at all. I think someone's mom turned into a robot.
Okay.
But other than that, I don't remember shit. I'd watch Evangelion again.
Okay. So I have this is literally I'm not going to show a picture of it because there's a bunch of other file names in there that I'm a few years ago when I was starting this thing. I have a file that, like, I think it was the default Notion title was just idea file.
Okay.
And I just started jotting stuff down. And some of it is like, you have to open it up to figure out what it is, because one of it just says wrestling, and I don't even know what that means.
terrible idea.
But like the fourth thing on that list was Dragon Ball with Dan. And I was like, eventually that fucking guy's going to get fired or something's going to happen. And then we're going to do this again.
Oh, okay. So you're saying this wasn't the initial time. You're saying this is like more recently.
This was when I went out on my own.
Got it.
When the Patreon started, I was like, okay, yeah, well, a time will eventually come when this will happen again.
I have always had that in my mind too, that like this is too much of an obvious layup. I enjoy doing that podcast.
Yeah.
There's so much more meat on the bone, obviously. So
totally.
Yes, I'm glad we're definitely in a spot now where we can start talking about making that a reality.
Exactly. And so, yes, we will probably have something to say more about that later this year once I think we have to figure out the timing and how it will be presented to you and where and a lot of stuff around that. And obviously Dan's got a lot of shit to do. So, and well, whatever. So do I, but
all we know is we want to do it.
Yes.
And
yes.
we intend
we intend to do this. What about Lane? What about what Serial Experiments Lane? You ever watch that?
That's an anime?
That's an anime?
The only Lane I know is a kid from when I was a kid, and he threw a bottle at my face and it shattered a bottle, and I put him in a cross-faced chicken wing.
I think this is pretty much like that. This is meant as mentally fucked as that is.
Okay.
So that might be a fun one to do. But we will probably start with a Dragon Ball series that I'm sure will take us multiple years to finish. Yeah. So let's not get ahead of ourselves.
Probably the original. My first again. We have to talk it out once it's real. But I would think maybe original Dragon Ball, maybe break it up with something else, maybe go on to Super. But yeah, we've got or GT. I hear everyone says it sucks, but that might be fun to talk about.
GT sounds so exciting to me because of how terrible it sounds. Like the stuff I've read about where it goes and what it is just sounds so bad. I'm like, oh, I really want to watch that. It sounds so bad. But yeah, original Dragon Ball is like 153 episodes, I think. So.
Okay, yeah. Well, what did we do before? We did 5 episodes an episode of the podcast.
Or was it I guess it was 5.
Maybe do 5 and then we dialed it back because I remember thinking 3 sounds more doable because 5 episodes every week on top of everything else, and now with us having more to do in our lives, I think we'll probably bring it like to 3 or something like that.
Yeah. Okay. People are saying that we started at 3 and then moved it up to 5. So
that's weird. Okay.
I remember there were some weeks where I had watched like 3 of the episodes the night before. And then literally I was driving into the office with it playing on my phone with the audio going through the car. And I just had my phone kind of propped up and I'm like in traffic, just kind of like watching Dragon Ball, like as I'm driving to work to talk about Dragon Ball.
So you've watched Dragon Ball Z on the Golden Gate Bridge?
Yep. Okay. Absolutely.
Cool.
1000%.
Cool guy stuff. Okay.
Yeah. Exactly. Like all the cool motherfuckers are doing. Of course. I think Danny's going to bring me my hentai hat back when he comes down for Summer Game Fest.
I saw that he is in possession of that. Yes.
Yeah, so that's kind of the last piece to get all this back together. And so yes, I think we will plan to make plans.
Yes.
On that front.
Yes, news coming when it comes. It could be, it'll certainly be months from now, but I would love to start this year.
Yes, so. that is where my head is at on it as well. I have some emails. Sure. A couple of them came in, I think, specifically knowing that you were going to be on. So maybe I'll find those. Podcast@guard.bike is the email address to send in your emails. This guy, Harvey Forrest, Harris, Austin, Texas's own Harvey Foster writes in and says, one of my favorite Giant Bomb videos was a one-off excursion involving the two of you, a Nintendo DS, and a trip to the amusement park.
Oh, sure.
I assume any off-site productions were massive undertakings, so the fact that this video was able to be published at all is certainly a miracle. This has me wondering, were there any other out-of-office videos you had wanted to make that didn't come together for one reason or another? Just curious if the roller coaster challenge was always meant to be a one-off or if there were other Jackass Meets Gaming videos brewing behind the scenes.
Of course.
Yeah.
One that I thought of is, the roller coaster one was one I had pitched for years at Game Informer, and they thought it sounded stupid. So you were immediately game for it. So we did that. And my next thought was like, okay, well, what's the escalation there? What's the next thing? And it was around the time Fleet Week was coming to San Francisco.
Yeah.
And I was trying to talk the Blue Angels into letting us play Mario while doing loop-de-loops in the Blue Angels, but that didn't go anywhere. So
we could have. I mean, that would have been expensive, but like they still do that in Vegas. Like you can still play laser tag in a plane above Las Vegas.
What?
I don't know. You never heard this. So Namco took us all out to Las Vegas for an event in like in 2001, which is a great year for this. On top of everything,
like
else.
a Nina Williams Death by Degrees situation. I'm trying to think what they were doing
probably
back
before
then.
that. So this was an Ace Combat situation.
Okay, gotcha.
And so they were like, we're going to take everybody and we're going to put them in planes, and we're going to let them fly these planes above Las Vegas or above the desert outside. I mean, we weren't actually above Las Vegas. And so they have these like Italian stunt jets that they use for this. And they have a guy in there with you to handle takeoffs and landings. And then he's just like, all right, man, fly the plane.
You get to fully like control the stick and all that stuff?
And you are dogfighting all of the other journalists because they have put laser tag shit in the planes. So you're shooting lasers, and then when you hit the other plane, they put smoke pots on it so that their smoke shoots out of the jets when you hit them.
But okay, I understand them handling the takeoff and landing, but what's making it so you can have a midair collision?
That's a great question.
The sky's big?
I mean, the guy is still there, so if he sees anything happening, he can always grab the stick and say, fuck you, don't do this.
Okay, I think this is what the new season of The Rehearsal is about.
Yeah, but now that you mention it, no, there was nothing about midair collisions or anything that I remember being brought up. They just put us in the air and said, whatever, man, you know how this works.
I mean, you've played Ace Combat.
Exactly. And it was, I was one of the few people who did not throw up.
Oh, okay. Were you filming this?
So I have a videotape over here and my VCR broke, but yes, because it's one of these things that tourists go do.
Sure.
They have a camera in the cockpit and they do all this shit. And you know, they give you a tape at the end of it to relive the magic or whatever. And I don't think I've ever actually watched it, but it is literally sitting over there and I need to digitize it before it explodes.
I mean, I did intend to ride that roller coaster until I threw up, but
right.
You went 3 times, I want to say, and I think I went 5, and then like the park was opening up, and like I was dead set on being on that thing until I puked on my DS.
Yeah.
But no, the park had to open, so unfortunately didn't get the money shot.
Yeah. Well, you know, there's always next time. Yeah, I remember at the time like being very open to doing more stuff like that. Just I think my caveat was like, okay, like within reason, it needs to be like some kind of escalation, and also we can't just do this all the time.
Right. I didn't want that to become like the job is like, oh, every week here's the wacky. You know, it's like you got to pick your spots on it. It's like, you know, when old timers talk about, you know, pick your spots, don't do a moonsault in every match. You know, you got
the most out of everything.
It's got to mean something when you do it. You know, of course, yes.
Yeah. I think that was my whole thing with that. So I was always. I remember talking about doing. Like going to like JPL or like some like astronaut training, like getting in like a gravity simulator.
Oh, like the G-Force thing.
Yeah,
like
getting in the G-Force simulator and trying to do it there. I think that was something we talked about for a brief period of time.
I wonder, what's the company that sent Katy Perry to space?
That was Jeff Bezos, Jeff Amazon guy, whatever his thing is, blue sky,
or something.
blue planet, blue ass.
I would play DS in space, yeah.
Oh yeah, would you?
Yeah, I'd go to space, yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I go to space, yeah. Yeah, I don't know. Like, there's all those plane companies that just do the like parabolic, like brief periods of. So I don't think that would be that. Like the zero G stuff. It just sounds too easy.
Yeah, I remember thinking it
You're
sounded like
there.
a pain in the ass because, like, Apollo 13, that's how they shot it. Was like they kept doing that over and over and over again. So, like, to get like 10 seconds of footage, you had to go through this whole rigmarole. It's like, man, that seems like a huge pain in the ass.
Yeah, and it's hundreds of thousands of dollars to do the Katy Perry thing, I think.
Yeah.
And so, unless they sponsored it,
all right, me, you, and Katy Perry go into space, and we play Mario Party.
You had me and you lost me.
Okay. They got the new decompiled one. We'll do that.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. All right. Well, now I'm back on board.
All right,
All right. No, well, I mean, if we do the new one with the upgrades, won't we need to find a surface to do the mouse stuff with? Didn't they add?
No, there wasn't mouse stuff. Have you played the Switch 2?
No, I've not.
It's more camera stuff for Mario Party. The mouse stuff I just played with Metroid, and it was good. I honestly I want to do that on like a tray table on a flight and stuff. It's not, I'm gonna play most of it like sitting on a couch, so I'm not gonna I'm not gonna have a lap board in front of me. But it works pretty well. It works better than I expected it to.
The story I heard kind of, in the lead up to them actually letting people do it was like that they were worried, like they needed to make sure that it was like the fidelity on it was good enough that you could like do it on your pants. Because they know, like they're not idiots. They know that people aren't going to always have flat surfaces with them at their rooftop parties or whatever the hell they're doing. I don't know. Like I don't know.
Try it, but it's like even on this perfect, surface they had us at the event. If I moved it left or right too fast, it would kind of like tilt over, and I had to learn to kind of like angle my hand a little bit to keep it from doing that. Right. So like I just imagine on like a thin like your pant leg, I could see that being a little wonky.
Yeah, I bet. I'm interested to see who ends up taking advantage of that stuff. I mean, it makes sense for games like Civ or whatever, but like there's something about when they showed the wheelchair basketball stuff. And they showed someone doing the mouse stuff and then pulling it up to shoot. Like that idea of like, because you can't do that with a regular mouse. I can't pick up my mouse and do shit with it. And so that's something that like no one else is doing. And if they do that and it's cool, then maybe there's something to that. But
I did try that in Metroid, where it's like I wondered if you had to go into the settings to change it, but it's like no, I was doing the mouse
on the fly,
mode,
right? You can
and
just
then on the fly, it just knows like, oh, we're doing analog sticks. Okay, great. So like you could go to a boss fight that requires like very precise aiming, and just go into mouse
down
mode
and go. Yeah,
pretty cool. Yeah,
I think that's neat. I don't know, man. I think that thing. I think these Nintendo guys are onto something.
Yeah, maybe.
But I do think that like there's a real shot when I think about kind of where video games are and how much money they cost to make and all of this other stuff. Like there's something to be said for like here's this thing that's kind of a PS4, Xbox Series S, wherever you want to call it. Like like what if games didn't cost quite as much to make because you weren't always making them for 4K screens and all of this other shit. Like there's something to it, man. I don't know.
I look at like, Bonanza and what that looks like. And I'm more excited for that than I am like the new Naughty Dog thing, which looks, objectively gorgeous. It looks awesome. But like, I don't know. I see a fun art style like a Bonanza or Mario Kart World. I do like that more than like hyper realistic, super 8K, whatever. It's like, I like that. I'll take it. But I don't know. The Nintendo style always jived with me better.
Well, I mean, plus, like, I mean, they finally have a good looking Donkey Kong.
Yeah, I'm glad
they
you're
haven't
on the right
had
side
one
of
since like
this.
the 80s. They have not had a good looking Donkey Kong.
I like DKC. I like the dumbass look of Donkey Kong, but I do agree that this is a better Donkey Kong. But I will always have a soft spot for that country era one.
Yeah, I know you will. It's because you're sick.
They kept it with Cranky. Cranky looks like Cranky still, and there better be a Funky.
All right, yeah, well, finally the demands. There it better be a. I mean, do you think that they'll put Funky? Do you think they'll patch Funky mode into this game?
I think Funky mode might be a one and done, but I think Funky Kong, I think they'd be fools. And you know who they never used enough? Swanky Kong. He had a Bobby Heenan jacket. He hosted game shows. His name was Swanky Kong. Like, we didn't get nearly enough mileage out of that guy.
But like, you feel like if they were to do it, it would be like his son Swaggy Kong or something now, right?
I'm on board.
Okay,
I'm
all right,
board.
yeah, okay, yeah. Voiced like Travis Scott.
Glizzy Kong, yeah.
All right, Glizzy Kong, I'm on board with. That's all right. Now I'm back in.
Yeah.
Zingy Bingy Kong or something. I don't know, man. Like it's such a weird. It's been such a weird time for video games these past few years, and just like the way all this stuff has been going, and prices going up and everything. Like I think there's something, even though the price of the Switch 2 is nuts, or high. It's not nuts, but like it's been really weird and interesting to kind of see like someone trying to launch a device in the middle of all this bullshit that's been going on. But like, yeah, I don't know, man. Like, how are you feeling about video games in general now that you're running a video game website and you're now tethered to the success or failure of this business? in a very real the video game industry in a very real way. How are you feeling about stuff in general sense? I mean,
there are those glimmers of I'm definitely not some like doom and gloom guy about the industry in general.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously with like just the working environments and stuff have been very bad and layoffs and things. But in terms of just games, I see these glimmers of, like an Astrobot. Like Astrobot was... I remember playing that demo at SGF and being like, this is what I want. This is just pure joy, pure fun. And then, you see what, Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom have done. And that was a thing I thought was impossible to, deep into my 30s, I was playing a game that made me feel like I was 10 again,
right.
Even after all these years, playing games, reviewing games and stuff, like the Breath of the Wild experience. I know everyone has said this for fucking 8 years, but like, that really was a huge rejuvenating game for me. And they don't come along that often.
Right.
But, I think every once in a while you do get something like that. Or even like a Blueprints on a smaller scale. Mm-hmm. I played that, and just like to have those moments, even after playing thousands of games, to like, I've never played anything like this. I've never felt quite like this while playing a game. I don't know. I'm always open to being surprised. And I find that it usually is the thing that came in under the radar that I wasn't thinking about.
Right.
That, blows me away. Like, I still remember you just telling me like, hey, there's this new, like, people are talking about the Stardew Valley game. You want to check it out for a quick look. And I was like, I never played a Harvest Moon. I never played a farming game. And then I got fucking obsessed with Stardew Valley. And I had not heard of that, an hour before you told me about it. So those are my favorite ones. Like, there are the big ones where it's like, I'm going to look forward to Death Stranding 2 and whatever Fizzent is and the next Mario. Like, of course, those are these huge tentpole things I'm going to look forward to. But more often than not, it's like, oh shit, that new Metroidvania Prince of Persia is one of the best Metroidvanias I've ever played. Like, those are the moments that I always get very, very excited about. And like, I always feel like the next one could be around the corner,
Totally, yeah. And so Death Stranding 2, is it going to change anyone's mind? Is it just like he's like quadrupled down on as much of his bullshit as he can because people liked the last one more than anyone thought that they were going to, and now they're just like,
Yeah, and God bless him for it. I think he is quadrupling down on the nonsense stuff, but in a fun way. Like, the tone is better. It's less just kind of like, oh, everyone's crying. There is more just like silly Kojima bullshit in it.
Yeah.
And also it's way more fun to play. Now, forgive me, I feel like I've told this anecdote a million times, but you may not have heard it, about why Dollman maintains his youthful appearance.
Ooh, no. Why does Dollman maintain his youthful appearance?
I'm glad you asked, Jeff Gerstmann. It's because, so he's a puppet, you understand. He was a man he was an actual man whose got involved in the ka of a puppet, and now it's inextricable. So,
his got involved with the ka of a puppet. Or it could be the
ka went into the ha of a puppet. I forget the specifics there. But
got it. Okay. All right. Okay.
At one point, I was in my private room, and he asked me, the puppet asked me, like, hey, Sam, you probably wonder how I keep my youthful appearance, right? And I said, yes, please tell me, Dollman. And you see, there's a character on the Magellan, which is the floating Metal Gear that you travel around on in this game.
Yes.
Her name is Rainey. She's a woman who's 7 months pregnant, but she's like a still mother, so the baby won't go past 7 months. Like, the baby's fine in there. It's just like perpetually 7 months, and they don't know how to get it out, basically. I think Mad TV, Deborah Wilson with the two left hands, I think she can. That's a whole other thing. But so anyway, pregnant woman on the ship. Her name is Rainy, and so when she goes outside, it causes timefall storms, which timefall, is the rain.
Right, of course.
Yeah, it's the rain that makes you old. But within a 1.5 meter radius of her body, it's core fall rain, which makes things young. So every once in a while, Rainy will take Dollman into the shower with her. And since she's inside, the shower water turns into core fall, and it rains on the puppet, and it keeps him looking young.
Good, because I wouldn't want the puppet to age and get old. I hate it. I hate an old puppet.
Right, exactly. Be an old snake thing. Yeah, you'd die in a graveyard. Yeah, no, it's no. He looks great. He looks awesome. He does a J-pop dance number at one point if you play the right song on your iPod. It's good. It's a good fun game.
Yeah.
Yes.
But inherently, are you still holding down L2 and R2 and walking forward and going, oh shit, oh shit, oh shit?
Not as much, and that's what I hated immediately in the first game. I was like, I'm just constantly falling over and losing my shit, and like that happened a couple times in this one. You do have to like every once in a while, if you have a huge stack, you'll lean or whatever. But there's vehicles, there's other ways to get things around and stuff, and it just doesn't seem like there's that much pain in the ass micromanagement. I played 30 hours this fucking game, and which is insane. And the baby like twice was causing enough of a ruckus where I had to like soothe it. It's just going through like the BT camps and stuff. You don't have to, it's not as much like, oh, I got to hold my breath and sneak around at a snail's pace. Like there are options if you're a stealth idiot like me and I'm going to get caught by every fucking BT and every fucking bandit camp. You can just whip out your trank grenade launcher or your blood boomerang and you've got ways to kind when them out.
Yeah, what do you like? Piss bullets and poop bombs and what do you?
You
like,
can.
What, are you flinging toenails at people now? Like what?
When you take a shower, it does talk about how much. I think you might just get chiralium or chiral crystals out of your pee and poop.
Okay.
I don't. You get blood grenades, but I don't know if you get pee and poop grenades. If you do, they're less of a focus this time around.
Oh man.
Yeah.
Why would they get away from the few things that worked about the first one?
Yeah, they're just into blood now. It's all blood stuff.
Man, I don't know.
Yeah.
That game came out at a weird time because I had a baby. And so having a game where a crying baby is making noise out of a controller speaker every time I just would turn my head and go, oh shit. I was like, wait, no.
Sure.
Oh no, that's just this fucking video game. Fuck this.
Sure. It's funny. It was a weird time because it was like 2019, so that would have been my last game of the year with my first run at Giant Bomb.
Yeah.
And in writing the preview for GameSpot, I was like looking back because I wanted to refer to like what I said about it the first time around, and it did just fucking kill me because I'm sitting right next to you, and Vinny is going on a long thing talking about like what's good and what's bad and what he likes and everything, and I just going like it sucks shit, it fucking sucks, and you just. Dan, you've done this for 10 years. Use your words. Yeah, okay. Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah. Yeah, that game, when I finally had someone, I forget who did, it was Alex that finished it, right? Like I
Alex,
forget who it was.
Vinny finished it too.
Vinny finished it for Game of the Year, but I think like Alex played it for initially. And I remember kind of getting the breakdown. If it wasn't from him, it was for whoever was playing it on GameSpot that just like said like, hey, do you want to hear about this thing? And I was like, yes, I do, because I think I'm just about done playing it. And then it would like having the rest of the game laid out and just being like, okay, yeah, I am in fact done.
I mean, I had the same thing because I played 7 hours before I gave up that first time, and it was probably Alex as well, and he's just kind of laying out what's going on. Then the game came out, and I watched like the final cutscenes and stuff, and I was like, I don't know, I don't care, I don't understand. This one, it's just like it tells the story better, and it's got all that kind of bullshit world building stuff out of the way. So it's like you just accept that like. One of the first things that happens is Fragile brings you. It's like these are the finest chiralium printed diapers, and I'm like, yeah, okay, yeah, that's
of course they are.
I'm not confused. Yeah,
give me these.
Yeah, exactly. So it's right. I don't know. I think the first one laying the groundwork for this insane world does the second one a lot of favors.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I don't know, man. Maybe there's something to it. It's just hard to again with what that first game was and every aspect of it just being this. I don't know, man. Overly indulgent to the word. I just it's hard to really.
Kojima? No.
Yeah. Well,
no,
maybe occasionally.
Absolutely not. No.
I don't know. I was watching this Harvey Force guy play Metal Gear Twin Snakes.
Yes.
On Twitch.tv, and it was a good reminder about some of the stuff. I mean, obviously that's not fully his take on the game. It's Dennis Diak's weird Canadian take on it. Canadian Metal Gear, and
that's his podcast, right? Dennis Diak's weird Canadian take.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's still doing it every week. It's him angry and epic for something. I don't know what it is. It's just something about the Unreal Engine and how it did him wrong. I don't know. It's the whole thing. But he got to the point where you have the fucking temperature changing key.
Yeah.
And I remember that being the point in my first run through Metal Gear Solid where I was like, fuck, what the fuck is wrong with these people? I can't believe this shit.
Take it to a fridge and take it to a lava place. It's not that bad.
And then like run through the same area like 9 fucking times.
You've been through there. It takes like 15 minutes. You're fine.
Oh my God. So yeah, I don't know. Like my favorite memory of Kojima is when we saw him drunk coming out of a porta potty at the E3 party, at Sony's E3 party at Dodger Stadium. was like me and I think Greg Kasavin was there. It was a very long time ago. But
sounds pretty
like
cool.
seeing him come out and he was holding a beer and so he had a beer with him in the porta potty, which now I think is how Death Stranding got to be about so much pee, probably. But that's my Kojima memory. So I don't know. Yeah, I mean, I'm certainly gonna check it out, but I don't know, man. I'm gonna be on such a hair trigger with it from the first game.
Sure.
That it's hard to. But who knows? Maybe it'll get its hooks in me somehow, and
it gets into it a lot quicker than the first game.
That's good. Can you still
Really
like
does.
stuff? That was the only.
Yeah,
I think
you can like stuff.
Good. All right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you mash the trackpad. Yeah.
Figured that was the case. Like, because why would they take that away? That's the best part about it. But all right. Yeah, that's good to know. Let me see here. I think we have a few more emails here. Hey, part of this is pursuant to our recent topic. Schumann writes in and says, I've been going over some old podcasts and web pages about gaming in the mid to late 2000s, and I was reminded how prevalent auteur game designers were in the gaming press and in game discussions at large around the time. Ken Levine, Dennis Dyack, Peter Molyneux, and so on. Where are they all now? I think, Dennis has a podcast. Ken Levine's working on whatever that thing is. Molyneux is running away from the guy who opened the Cube, who says he owes him money.
Wait, Molyneux was on stage at Gamescom, wasn't he? Did I make that up?
Yes,
What's he doing? Is he bringing Milo back to life?
Yeah, I think Milo's back and he's an LLM now. You can jailbreak out of it and do all kinds of bad stuff that an AI boy should not be talking about. But
what was he doing on stage?
What was he doing on stage? I don't know.
I remember thinking like, "Oh, Molyneux's back," and I was like,
Molyneux's back, and he's just like, "Here, my balls are on this stage," and it's just like, I don't remember what it was. It was like it was something of Albion. That's what it was.
Oh, right, because it was another thing where it's like that's because that was the land in Fable, but it's also like some either real place or public
mythical
domain.
public. So he's got some kind of weird workaround where he's calling it Albion anyway. Yeah, no, and I think it is still 22 Cans affiliated, which is the company that he started. That I think
that was the Curiosity Cube company.
Yeah, and then they made a game called Goddess.
Yep,
and a game called Goddess Wars. That apparently one of those games did well on phones.
Okay,
and then the other ones like bombed on Steam to the point where they got pulled off of Steam completely.
And wouldn't he was pushing into like NFT territory during that?
There was
time,
some
right?
like after that or around that time he was some NFT AI hellhole. I don't know what it was.
But he's back.
He's back. So that's what he's doing. But it's like, where are they all now? It seems nowadays you don't hear so much from lead designers on big games the way we used to, or at least the big companies themselves don't seem to give them nearly as much importance as before. What do you think changed?
I mean, I think there were some bad stories that came out about a lot, and not necessarily. I mean, some of the guys you mentioned, but like, I don't know, the idea of this like auteur studio head with this vision or whatever. I think a lot of the times is correlated with like dudes that kind of sucked. Yeah, and I think maybe
the David Cages of the world.
Yeah, and like, hey, maybe we don't stake our whole thing on this dude's name because what if he winds up being a creep or something?
Right.
Like then the whole series is tainted. Maybe it's just the first thing that comes to mind for me.
I think that it's that. I think there are fewer places out there doing those types of interviews, and so I think like studios just don't, or publishers don't bring those type of people around as many places because there are not as many places left to bring them. But like, I think part of it is also this kind of larger acknowledgement of just like, hey, games are made by a lot of people.
Yeah. That's it. I always thought that was weird. Even like Kojima, like slapping his name a million times on it. Like, no, there's a lot of people working on that game.
Yeah, and that was something that I think got to me around MGS4. Was like, hearing some stories from other people who were there about what making that game was like. And who did what to a certain extent, but people just all conflate it to Hideo Kojima made this video game, and you're like, well, actually, these other parts of it that you're talking about as being like that's so Kojima is like, no, like he didn't touch that particular part of the game, And
it was weird that they would do things like I remember before they actually showed old Snake and what it looked like and everything.
Yeah.
They were playing off I think he said 2 was going to be his last one, and I think he said 3 was going to be his last one that he directed. And I remember the reveal trailer of 4 was still like the Snake Eater models and stuff, and it was just like no place to hide ? No place for Hideo ? And like the whole thing was leading up to like Solid Snake or Big Boss sitting in a director's chair, and then a thing like falls off and it says directed by Hideo Kojima with like applause and stuff. It's like, okay, we are really like, look, I love Hideo Kojima stuff.
Yes.
But that it's kind of a weird look.
I love him as like an insane person that is making his specific type of game and no one else is making them. And I love that.
Yep.
But yes, also that whole thing is...
Pump the brakes a little bit on that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, fuck, man, you get to Phantom Pain and literally before every single mission, it's like, hey, directed by Hideo Kojima.
And here's Hideo's sunglasses. And here's
provided
the brand.
By,
yes.
Well, Botany 500 suit or something. Yeah. It's real. It's fucking ridiculous. Well, he had to get it in while he could. He knew.
Yeah.
During the course of that game, he's just like, all right, man, they're fucking coming to get me. Yeah. I'm going to go work at the health club if this keeps up.
They're coming to get me.
Konami, they're coming to get him. Yeah. He's under a cardboard box going like, they'll never look for me here.
He's in the locker at the health club.
Yeah, it's like Yakuza guys, pinky missing dudes stomping around the office. Also the CEO of Konami. Like, where the fuck is he? Hey!
Why do they have that voice? Hey!
Everyone in organized crime talks like an exaggerated Italian. We all know this.
It's Hideo Kojima getting chased by the Sopranos.
Yeah.
This is something I want to see.
Hey, forget about it. Get that guy. The Gabagool. He's in the Gabagool box. Change his email address. There's a real long time there where every 6 months, everyone at Konami got new email addresses because they didn't want anyone being stolen. And so you would get someone's business card and it would just be a string of fucking random letters and numbers. And you'd be like, what the fuck? What are you doing?
Like Molyneux, they're back. I just downloaded the Konami game. Like they're making games again.
Yeah, dude. There's good. Yes. At some point they'll make a... Yeah, I mean, they're doing... Are you excited about that thing, the MGS3 Delta?
I played it, yeah. So I went to a Konami event last year in England with like MGS3, Silent Hill 2, and Delivered All Costs. And yeah, people seem to be real hot on Silent Hill 2. That was never my series really, but people seem to like it. I played Delivered All Costs at the event. Thought that was a really fun, weird thing. And then Snake Eater seems like they did the exact thing they should do, where it's like, let's not do our take on it. Let's just make Kojima's game, look and play better.
I think like the only thing I want to know about that game is like, because my memory of MGS3 is always like, I've got to go in this menu and I've got to change my camo again, and just being like, so I never finished that game because I just reached a point with it where I was like, fuck this, like I have a life to lead.
The camo thing is like, if I remember right, it was on the D-pad, but there is a way like in game towards like, I'm leaning against bricks, so I'm just going to swap to the red brick thing without going into a separate full-on menu. Yeah. And I can't remember the survival, because I hated the like, oh, I got shot, so now I got to take out the bullet and do the styptic and then the bandage and all that stuff. Like, I don't remember. Oh, you know what? Because they had us end at the Virtuous mission. I think they don't introduce that stuff till later, so I'm not sure on that. But the camo thing is easier. Yeah,
that's good. I'm looking. That's another game I'm kind of looking forward to revisiting because with some changes, I think that would be stuff that, like again, like that game is so specific about its fucking insanity that like I really wouldn't mind seeing it in motion. But like the act of actually playing it, I found so actively repulsive.
Sure.
It was just like, I'm not going to do this to myself. And I remember that was when that came in for a review. I guess maybe they went out to review it. They probably did have an event for that, but I remember when they sent us copies kind of just before release and the review had gone through and I was like, oh, it sounds like the people really like this game. I should try it out. I thought MGS2 was awesome. And then I sat down with it for like a couple hours and was just like, oh, fuck this, dude. Not entirely unlike Death Stranding, with just a certain amount of just like, you've layered too much bullshit in this, and I don't want to. I will not go here with you, sir.
See, I went there with them, but the one thing that I really didn't like was that we went to 60 frames a second on this console, and now we're down to 30. And I understand why. There's way more foliage and stuff like that. There's more going on. But I am a frame rate snob. I'm not a resolution snob, but frame rate, like, oh man. So like once the HD collections and all that stuff, the Master Collection came out, it's like, all right, this is running well now.
Yeah. So are you playing most stuff on PC these days to be like full frame rate? Like what kind of monitor you got? Like how far above 60 frames per second are we talking these
I got
days?
a 165 refresh on this guy here. I got 2 monitors set up. I got a 4090. Yeah, I think I got like I did not have a gaming PC ever growing up. It wasn't until I think I reviewed Battlefield 3 for Game Informer, and they sent us like a 1080 or a 9. No, it was like a 970 or something at the time, and that was the first time I had an actual graphics card.
Yeah.
And I also had the Steam account thing, so it's like, all right, I should probably get into PC gaming and stuff. So now I do tend to request that, although sometimes I do just want to like load up a console and not mess with something, especially if I'm streaming, just HDMI in and like not have to worry about capturing a window and it gets wonky or something. So I don't know, it's case by case basis, but if it is something that's really going to be like, pushing the horsepower, I will go on PC and crank it all the way up.
Yeah. Samsung. I just read it this morning, and now I'm like, this monitor is good, but also Samsung just announced a monitor that is 500 hertz, and I'm just like, what if I could get 500? Because this is 360 right here.
Jeez, I didn't even know they had those.
It's fucked up. It's fucked up. I was trying
Can you tell with your human eyes?
Once you get above 60, there is a point of diminishing returns for sure. So at some point it becomes more feel of just like the way this game feels in your hand is like, I'm right there. This control is right there.
Okay.
And the latency and frame rate kind of all combine in a very awesome way.
I think more than going into PC nerd stuff, I've gone the other direction. And I remember back in the day when like you and Peter Brown would be talking about SCART cables and misters and stuff. And I'd be like, hey man, I'll just play on my, Nesticle emulator or whatever. Right. I don't need to fucking worry. Like, and now I'm just surrounded by retro tinks and CRTs. And like, I've got misters. I've got the Taki thing that's coming out. I mean, analog, like I have fully gone into that territory now.
Yeah, that shit's great. How have you, as a Punch-Out aficionado, like, was that the moment where you were just like, oh, I can actually, like, successfully play Punch-Out on this fucking thing without having to go through a CRT and do all this other stuff? Like, it seems like between the Mister and the Retro Tink like, I can play on this just fucking LG OLED I've got sitting over here. All of it is fast enough that it works the way you want it to. And that to me is the crazy. That was where it kind of broke for me, of just like, because I didn't want to get a Retro Tink, because like Drew Scanlon was the first to fall down that rabbit hole of SCART cables and nonsense, and I was like, that's cool, man, but holy shit.
But then it was Drew Scanlon that did that for me too, because he was the one who set up that super complicated setup for Punch-Out, which we were going to do that daily feature where I played it and I beat it the first day. And like Drew spent like a month setting that shit up. But that was the super eye-opening thing to me of like, oh, this really, because I used to like give Tim Turry shit, because like I remember when he reviewed like Mega Man 9 at Game Informer, and he was like, I need to have a CRT. I need to find a CRT in this office to play it on. I can't play Mega Man 9 on a, I remember giving him so much shit for that. Like, oh, it's fine. It feels totally fine. And then I did the Punch-Out stuff, and it's like, oh, this is demonstrably better.
That was something that Brad was always a real stickler about in the studio, because all of the gear for any video game that we were capturing was running through 9 different splitters and going into this box to get decimated here and then split into these cables and out back. And then it had to go to all these TVs, and then the TVs had latency of their own, and they were all budget ass fucking Costco TVs. And it was sometimes it was a totally miserable experience to play video games in that studio.
Sure. It kind of has to be, though, if you want like the production flexibility to do what you want to do. It's like, it's not a direct line in,
No, I've spent the last couple of years buying increasingly expensive HDMI splitters and matrices and all this other stuff in pursuit of like, I want to have everything hooked up all the time so I can push 2 buttons and play PlayStation 5 or have the Mister, and really that's it. I mean, I have another PC that I can hook up to the capture gear if I want to do PC games that way. But to do that, I bought another PC, and that PC is so much more powerful that now I can just do all the capture and streaming on the same PC again without having to care. And so I was like, I'm going to become a dual PC streamer because that's the right way to do it. And then in the process of buying all this gear, was like, oh, I guess I don't need to do that anymore. This is awesome.
Yeah, and then I will do all that same stuff, and then I'll like freak out if like, oh, okay, well this splitter does everything I want it to do, but it can't send Atmos through, or it acts funky if it does. It's like, well, fuck, I need to have everything going through. It's just, it's a bad road to go down.
Increasingly Chinese splitter boxes with worse and worse instructions about just like what the fuck they can do. Like the number of things I've bought off Amazon for like $150, and just been like, maybe this will do it, and then you get it and go, nope, not at all.
It's weird brand names. And,
but I found one that actually does everything that at least like a PlayStation can do. So like that was kind of the impetus, was like, okay, I wanted to move to 4K capture when the PlayStation 5 Pro was released. I had this big idea in my head about like, well, that's when 4K, it's going to matter. And I was like, I should probably be able to do this. And so I started getting all this stuff ready for 4K. And then like the capture cards are not where they need to be to do that exactly right. And then obviously the splitters and everything are a fucking disaster. But like I jumped through enough hoops with it to where I got there, only to realize A, YouTube takes a zillion years to process 4K videos. And B, no one, it's the PlayStation 5 Pro is not that big a deal. No one, it's $700. No one fucking wants one. Turns out. Turns out people are excited about the Switch 2 at 1080p or whatever. I was like, all right, well, at least I can put out a podcast in 4K because that's really funny. This one's not because of the way the platform works and
that's
that stuff. But generally, a nice 4K podcast. The way it was clamoring. The way it was meant to be seen, honestly.
Yes.
So yeah. I'm going to see here if we have any more questions here before we go. This one is kind of before your time, but it is about your website. You've talked. This is to me. You've talked extensively about the bullshit you had to deal with under CBS and Red Ventures, but I don't remember ever hearing much about what it was like under Whiskey Media. What was the good and bad about that company, and what do you remember pre and post sale from them? So yeah, I guess this is before your. I mean, when you came on, we were already part of CBS, so that was
Yeah, I remember I wanted to come visit the office because I was going to be out there for like a GDC or something. I was talking to Ryan because he had been like, "Hey, you should definitely." This is probably like 2011. I don't know if the timeline lines up. And he's like, yeah, I got to take you by the office. And I was like, oh, hell yeah, I'd love to come see the Giant Bomb guys. And then like, as it got closer, he like stopped responding to me. And I was like, whoa, what's going on here? Like, okay, I thought he invited me. And it turns out, he told me later that it was like, you guys were in the process of the whole long shift and sale and all that stuff. Yeah.
Like we had to be out of the building. And so we started packing up the office, but we were still trying to do content, and we were still trying to like, because we couldn't talk about it and we couldn't talk about why we weren't in an office anymore. And so it was this kind of like weird, and it took a longer, like there's a video that we recorded that never ran anywhere because it was decided that it shouldn't, that we recorded. It was like the day after that we signed all the paperwork, and it was like, I guess we're going to CBS. And it was like us sitting in the office. I think I shot it. And it was like Dave and Ryan and them and us just going like, yeah, we did this thing. I don't know that I have it anymore. It might be on one of the, like we had these like old flip cams.
Oh, wow.
So there might be an SD card somewhere that still has that fucking thing. But we watched it a couple times and we were like, no, there's no point in running this. So we ended up not doing it. But like, yeah, that whole period. So we had a Christmas party. We had a real big Christmas party that Christmas. And that was like, there had been some loose talk in the months leading up to that, because I think they had already asked me like, hey, would you mind if we talked to CBS about buying this thing? Because they knew obviously like they were not going to, if I was against that, they would not sell it to CBS because of the history there and all of that horse shit.
Sure.
And I was like, I just laughed and said like, yeah, you should talk to them. That's stupid. All right. That's funny. But like, so I had that knowledge at that Christmas party of just like, this is probably it. And it was that weird TV show montage moment of me at that party, just walking around going like, it's never going to be like this again.
Right.
Whiskey was a great company to work for because we were there to take on the world. And it was very like, we had a lot of big ideas about things we wanted to do. Like I was technically, like the way it was split up is I was not a Whiskey Media employee. There was a separate LLC and all this other stuff under it for us, and it made it all more complicated and whatever else. But like Whiskey Media owned almost all of that website. It was not, people are like, why did you sell it? I'm like, because it was not my money, because I didn't sell it. So like, I would if I didn't have to, they were like, hey, we're selling this. Who should we sell it to? I said, not the people that want us to go do something with Jonah Hill.
What? That was on the table?
Oh, so you didn't. Okay. So this is, so Tested, when they sold Tested, it was specifically to this company, BlackRock, that does stuff with celebrities, and they're part of an agency and whatever else. Whale Rock, not BlackRock. Anyway. And so Tested was going to be put with the Mythbusters. It was like, oh, what if these Mythbusters guys had something outside of their television show to go and do this stuff with? And so that was the whole idea. It was just like Tested was going to become the Mythbusters website. And I was like, Jesus Christ. And so we had a last minute conversation with the guy from that company, because I think they felt hurt that Giant Bomb was being sold to someone else without even having the conversation. They were like, I can't believe you're splitting all this off or whatever. And I was like, you don't fucking want this thing. And so we had a conversation, but like the CBS stuff was already so far down the road that I don't know. Anyway. And I talked to him about like what the site was. And I was like, oh, we make video games and people seem to like us, and we go to PAX and all these people show up and they're very excited to, like we've signed some autographs and done some weird, I've signed people's boobs for this website. Prior to that, I had only signed boobs for a rap group I was in. So, it's a big deal. And, like I'm talking him through it, and he just kind of goes, yeah, I think Jonah Hill plays video games. Maybe we could put him on it. And I was just like, oh, interesting. And then as soon as he was out of the room, I was like, fuck this. Like, I am not going to go play second fucking banana to Jonah fucking Hill. Are you kidding me? Like, under no circumstance will I work for a company that wants me to go fucking be Jonah Hill. Like, nothing against Jonah Hill. Like, it could have been anybody, but like, I'm not going to go be some celebrity's pretend friend for a video game website that they have nothing to do with. It's
that type of content production that, like, when I was at WWE, it was constantly the entertainment relations team being like, oh, we've got this guy that hosts this on our network. He hosts this game show no one's heard of, or we're going to get Topanga on this thing. It's like, I thought we were going to make wrestling podcasts. Like, a lot of people are very horny to get celebrities into things that don't make sense. Yeah. So, like I heard all that and coming out of this fucking guy's mouth. It took me a lot to not like laugh in the middle of it. But I was just like, yeah, man, go sell it to CBS. If these are the options, like, devil I know, I guess. Sure.
Whatever, man. So that was really my only involvement in the sale process was like, they knew that if I was against it, it wouldn't work. And so they involved me in the process to that degree, and that was it, but either way, it was something was going to have to happen. And, but it was a really fun company to work for. I think that, a lot of the stuff that we were trying to do took longer like marketplace stuff around advertising and whatever, like that stuff just took longer to happen than we thought it was going to. We were very much like, dude, the ad market is going to crumble any day now. Advertising on the internet is about to fucking take a big shit. Everyone who's relying on, ad units on a web page is about to get completely fucked.
And that repeated itself later on with like, oh, Facebook video, that's
exactly
where the money is. And it's just like, it just keeps happening like that.
Yeah. And it's really, and so we were trying to do ads for a long time. Like we had the quest system on the website back in the day where you could visit certain pages and complete. It was like an achievement system for using the
like
site.
Points and stuff.
Yeah. Yep. And so with that in mind, it was like, well, what if we did sponsored quests? And so we had this guy, Kent, and Kent was a great guy. He had sold ads for game trailers, and he came on and was our ad guy. We came very close, I guess. Well, I don't know, very close, but we had conversations with the woman who was one of the leading factors in me getting fired from GameSpot, who was their head of sales. She was like, oh, what are you doing over there? Like she at one point talked about coming over when I was like, you should bring her in. That'd be hilarious. She should be selling our ads. That'd be funny. That ended up not working out. But anyway, Kent was good. And he had sold some stuff like, we had a sponsored BioShock 2 quest on the site. And if you completed the quests, you would get entered in a drawing. And I think you were going to win a really fancy fish tank with like a big daddy in it or
Hang on,
whatever.
gonna put this in my
write this
giant
down.
bomb
This is good.
ideas
Yeah,
doc,
exactly. Yeah. These are evergreen fucking concepts, man.
Yeah, when Judas comes out, we'll do a sponsored quest for it. Yeah.
And we did there was an Assassin's Creed one, and so we did hoodies. We did custom like Luchadeer hoodies. It was like Luchadeer's head inside of a assassin, like the Ezio kind of hood and all this other stuff. It was like kind of interesting stuff. And so that was the idea of just like, oh, well, maybe we could do, like actually cool advertising and find a way to make that work in the confines of what we were doing. And we did like 3 of them. Sure. That's not enough to fucking keep things afloat. So eventually Kent went to go get a real job and do, he was like, you guys are assholes. You won't let me sell ads the way that normally people sell ads. Like, what are you doing? So Kent went to go do something somewhere else. And then, Dave at one point was like, we need to launch subscriptions. Like, this is stupid. Like, there's no advertising thing that's going to actually make this work long term because advertising is just fucked. And we all knew it. But we knew it, I think, 3 years before it happened, as opposed to 2 months. We were like, any day now, this thing's going to crumble and GameSpot's going to be fucked and everybody's going to be fucked. And then we'll be the last one standing, motherfucker. And then, but then, that took a very long time to actually all shake out. And by the time that had all shaken out, we were part of CBS. So we got a front row seat to like, oh, by the way, the site that used to make, all of its budget back and then some on day one of E3 selling ads, sure. Like that's not happening ever again. And suddenly it was like, oh, okay, well now we're tethered to this thing that is losing a bunch of money and I don't know, whatever. So it's good that you're out on your own.
Yeah, it feels good, and it feels like it is at a time where it's like, look, I think we've seen over the years enough people have gone independent, and it's like I was wrong enough times about that where it's like I remember Miller telling me when I lived in San Francisco that they were going to do that. Yeah, and they're like, man, that's never going to work. That's too risky. You guys are getting paid well at IGN. Like, what are you thinking?
This is what I call the Ryckert's market mentality. You've got to keep the market open. I think the thing I remember hearing from you a lot was like, well, I mean, this job, I got to have healthcare. This job gives me healthcare. Like there was a constant thing that I remember for you is like this idea of like a big company will protect me in this specific way.
I know what the number is going to be every 2 weeks. I've got the 401k going in. I've got the health insurance, and like, I didn't want to week to week sweat the numbers because it would affect how much I make and what I can afford and things like that. So that's why it always scared the shit out of me. And I just saw enough people from Danny to Miller to Hansen, break off Nextlander, do their thing. And it's like, well, goddamn, it turns out that people do like supporting the things they like and they're willing to do it monetarily. And that's why it's like we're doing it this way and keeping it free, and it's not the old kind of premium model where it's like stuff gated or anything. It's just it's just giantbomb.com/join. We're just asking for support if people want to keep this thing going. I've in recent days and weeks I've talked to I talked to Miller and Tim Geddes. I live near Hansen. I talk to Hansen all the time, and I look at how Hansen has done things, and I'm always kind of in awe of what he's pulled off, because he was one that when he told me he was going to do it, I was like, dude, it's like none of them had the followings or anything. It was Game Informer. It's like, Hansen was kind of known to like a niche group of people who watched our replay show. But I was like, you're not Greg Miller. You don't have the visibility to pull this off. Right. And just through sheer force of talent and passion, he has done something really great here. So like, I am always picking Ben Hansen's brain about this stuff.
I think the way that Hansen, I think the way that they've done their stuff in terms of just like being very consistent about working with a larger group. Mm-hmm. I think that has been really impressive, because I think that's like always the hard thing to navigate in these kind of independent spaces, is just like, okay, are you bringing someone in and adding them to this already kind of month to month, like a shakier thing the bigger it gets? Are you paying them an appearance fee? Are you bringing them on as a contract basis? Like all these other, like the business of behind the scenes of that has always seemed very daunting to me.
Yeah, but you know what he does is he's not a guy with some business degree. He's got this like Midwest common sense that I really appreciate. He's like, when you hear stories about like the territory days, and it's like, here's this one promoter who just kept the lights on and everyone loved him and everyone loved you. You know, he'd be a handshake agreement guy, but he always did right by you. Like, you know, like that's kind of how I feel about Hanson. And I respect that, you know, just kind of that kind of like more humble Midwestern thing instead of just like slicker, bigger aspirations.
Well, and doing it smart and doing right by the people that you're working with, right? I mean, that's the you know, like I think that's extremely admirable the way that they've been going about it. And and yeah, man, I really like the way I've been doing. It's been really fun doing this and being able to honestly like balance it with the family life stuff. And like these kids are just about on the other side of the problems are all going to change. Like my oldest is just about to finish kindergarten. My youngest is a year and a half. And so, you know, the middle kid's going to start preschool this fall. And then there's suddenly fewer kids at home during the day and this and that. And so it's like my schedule is always like changing in these really weird ways. And so it's been great to have that flexibility and be able to be like, okay, well, I can record things at fucking 10 p.m. I can do things here. I can fit it in here and still be there to change diapers and help get kids to bed and all that other stuff that, you know, when I came back from paternity leave, when my first daughter was born and started working in the office again, it was garbage. It was real bad. Like leaving. And then because I was getting home, by the time I got home, the baby was asleep and my wife was asleep. And it was just like, I'm getting home to this fucking dark, quiet house. This sucks shit.
So being able to actually, when you were still coming into the office,
pre-pandemic, you know, 2019, like it was something that was just like, man, I don't like this way of life. It has to change, and I think as more people go independent and do that stuff, like I mean, like the way Kind of Funny's been doing it and finding success, and I think, you know, like everyone's finding it in different ways, right? They're drawing different lines about like what they're willing to do and how they're willing to make money and some of the other stuff. And I think that's really good and healthy too. You know, even like Remap and Aftermath and, you know, the places that are going a little more text heavy and all of that. Like it's been great to see that there is some appetite for that, because right now it's not just video games. It's all of media. It's all of publishing is going through this. And, you know, I think there will eventually come a time on the other side of this really tumultuous time where we kind of figure out how to do this again in a real way and make it less crazy. But like right now it's, you know, like, it's all these different like pirate ships running around and we're all like kind of cool with each other. Like, yeah, all right, we're all kind of in this together and like, we'll fucking figure this shit out. I don't know, man. It's been fun. And it's been weird. So I guess welcome to the other side of this stuff. Whatever. You've been running a Patreon for like years now anyway. Multiple.
Yeah. but side things, not as that's the thing. I always had that 401k and the benefits and stuff. Like I did side stuff as side stuff. I remember Mary Kish, you know, when I first started streaming on the side, she told me that like the idea of someone doing it full time, it's very hard to recommend someone do like Twitch streaming full time. She recommended that people look at it as like being an Uber driver on the side. Like, you know, you've got your day job and it's like, oh, you got a night where you got nothing going on, or you got an afternoon where you can spend a couple hours making a few bucks, like treat it that way, you know? And so now it's like, but the thing is, it also does come with this other angle where it's like, I've already found just in these planning days of the new Giant Bomb that like, there's a direct incentive, you know, there's a direct, like, you know, when you are working for a big corporation, doesn't matter if you're making videos that are making, you know, 5,000 views or 500,000 views, the salary is the same. And there is the benefit to the salary being the same. There is that, you know, a safety net. But as soon as it became like ours, it's just kind of like, oh, okay, I want to bust my ass. I am like waking up early and like immediately coming down here and trying to get stuff going on. Like, you know, I'm wanting to record extra stuff. Like it's, and also when you have less of just the corporate meetings and stuff like that don't have to do with the content, you can just put all of that effort into just making the cool stuff. And I'm sure there's going to be difficulties and stuff and things that I couldn't have foreseen. But right now, it's been nothing but excitement. It's been nothing but this feeling of freedom. And I mean, I'm thrilled. I'm thrilled by the early reaction. It's been tremendous. And like look, this is the future for me here, and I'm going to put everything I got into it.
Yeah. I mean, I think that probably the last old story I'll tell before we go here is like when we sold it to CBS, I told them very directly, hey, we're not a startup anymore. You need to give us more people because we're not going to work those hours anymore. And no one wants to hear that.
Right.
But like, that's the reality of it, is just like, hey, no one here owns any piece of this anymore. So not that anyone here owned any large piece of it, but like there was that, like, okay, there was a lot of that in those days of just like, we're going to stay late and do this because what if this is the one video that sends this whole thing into the fucking stratosphere and then we'll all reap the, you know, and so there was a lot of that. But the minute you sell it, it was like, okay, like I need 5 fucking people because you can't expect me to keep Vinny and Drew here for these hours. And I think the first time we did Game of the Year stuff, like they stayed late, insane hours that year. And like, it was just like, I think like everyone kind of realized like, we're not going to fucking do that anymore. Not for what this, you know, like it just can't, you know, like for a multitude of reasons. But yeah, you know, like obviously, you know, and everyone we told was like, oh, of course you do. I mean, yes, everyone knows that. And then, you know, we didn't hire up you know, for a very long time. Yeah. And never really hired up to the point that they even said that we would back then. So yeah, I don't know, man, that thing was so fraught, like with the number of times that I think, I'll only speak for myself here, but the number of times that I almost said like, I'm fucking done with this.
Sure.
Over that first kind of 5-year period at CBS was just because, you know, we were not getting the things we needed to take any of that pressure off.
I do feel like there was a constant refrain, like every E3, I would come on and do the Bombcast. And we were for years talking about me coming on before I actually finally was like, all right, they're not going to let me be the double down guy. I'm going. Yeah. And I feel like every year there was just like a different kind of tenuous situation. You're like, some weird stuff going on with the company. We're going to see where things are at in a couple months. And maybe then we'll talk then. Like, it just seemed like there was always some.
Well, and the fucked up thing is I was always on a contract. So they always had me on like some 2 or 3 year deal. And so I was always like on the verge of like the contract coming up and then being like, all right, now what? Like, you know, because I wasn't getting the same like employee stuff that everyone else was. Like I was on, and it was actually like a super bad deal for me. Like the only benefit I got out of it is being able to say like, well, I was on a contract. But like it was fucking a terrible fucking deal.
Sure.
It's like, oh, you're gonna lock me up for 3 years and give me 0 raises. Awesome. This is great. And you can cut me at any point, so it's not actually
a good system. You're an independent contractor.
No, not even that. Like it was weird, man. I mean, it wasn't like I had to move to Florida and fucking, you know, fully brother up.
But what if you did?
Yeah, and I was like, oh, give me these independent contractor gimmicks.
You and Luke Gallows could have a killer podcast.
Yes, yeah. I would join the Talking Shop universe in a heartbeat.
Alternate history.
Big LG, me, Rocky Romero, Gunn, the big K. Yeah. Yes. Brothered out as could be. I would go get some spray tans.
You know, I didn't know it was a huge gamer from when I think of that group. I was backstage at Dynamite doing a thing with Smojo recently, and Trent Beretta, big gamer. I had a great gaming talk with Trent Beretta. He was very, very nice. I mean, we all know about like Uno and Cole and a bunch of those guys being big gamers, but Trent was great.
Awesome. Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's he's somehow like the big show of that group. The secret vapor. See, no, I don't know. I'm not saying Trent vapes. I'm not saying Trent doesn't vape, but I'm just saying I don't know.
So we're selling him on blueprints.
Oh, good. Okay. All right. Yeah. Nice. All right, Dan, I'm going to let you go.
This is great. This is fun. Yeah. This is, obviously can't help but think a lot about just the history of this place and when you brought me on and everything and just all the history behind it. And I am very, very happy that, you know, I'm able I am glad that this is staying alive. And I think we've got a crew right now that I think we all get it. And I think we're going to make a lot of fun stuff. And I like this independent approach. I think we're going to do right by the fans for sure. Obviously, it's things change. And, you know, that was the thing we always, you know, when I came back in 2022, of course, you're always going to get that. Like, you know, your name comes up in every comment section, and it's like, it is a different crew now. I don't know what we can't change that situation. All we can do is make the best stuff that we can make. And I think we've really gotten into a groove with the crew we've got right now. And with all 5 of us being equal owners and everything, and all of us really caring about this, I am optimistic about the future here.
Nice. Yeah. Nice. Well, get out there and do your thing. I mean, I think my whole thing with the history thing, and the thing I always tell everybody, I think it's the thing I told people on my way out, was like, it's fucking yours now, man. Do your stuff. Like, it's not, don't get beholden to the history of it in a negative way.
Not a negative way, but
yeah.
like
I think people, I mean that in like, you know, it's very easy to get hung up on like, I've got to do the thing because I've got to appease these people who like this thing that doesn't exist anymore. That was something that when Vinny and Brad and Alex took off, like, that was the only thing about that was positive. It was not, you know, it's not a fucking positive thing. But the only thing coming out of that was like, well, you know, there's kind of this weird thing about like, you know, we get an opportunity to rebuild it. Like, if they actually had given us the opportunity to rebuild it, and then, you know, the corporate situation changed and everything went fucking terrible. One of the worst periods of my life, period. Just mentally, just the things that happened in my last 6 months there will fill a book someday. But like the way all of that stuff went, but there was that opportunity about like, man, you know, there was a lot of things that we were always felt kind of locked into that we couldn't change because, you know, we had people that had expectations, and there were things about it, those expectations, that could be confining at times. Sure. And that's where you never want to be, right? And that's where we had found ourselves. It's just like, well, I don't know. If we don't do quick looks, people say like, where are all the quick looks? If we do too many quick looks, then people are like, where's all of this? And so there was an audience, you know, there was a portion of the audience that would react that way to anything. And so it was this interesting opportunity that we ended up not getting ultimately, where it was like, all right, we need to fucking burn this thing to the ground and fucking build it all over again. Like, what would we do differently now? And, you know, by the time we started going down that road, I think, you know, well, we didn't make the best calls, to be fair. But then on top of that, you know, we were not given the opportunity to actually burn it all the way down or actually rebuild any portion of it whatsoever.
Sure.
And so, you know, I think that's the opportunity that you have ultimately. And that's why I'd say, like, you know, yeah, obviously there's stuff you're going to stick with because it works, you know?
Yeah, I mean, the thing that I want to stick with is the spirit above all else.
Yeah,
you know, of just like, I mean, I still remember one of the first times I ever saw you guys was I was at Game Informer, and someone told me like, oh, you got to check out Giant Bomb. And you guys were live on like Justin TV or something. Yeah. And you guys had just gotten like a new green screen or something, and you guys were clearly just fucking around. You know, it was like, you know, Drew was doing weird stuff with the TriCaster, and you and Ryan were trying weird stuff with this green screen. And it was like, it was not structured. It was just random weird shit. And the audience loved it. And then, like, you know, later on, I remember we were moving from the 3rd floor to the 1st floor, and we just streamed us when I was there, moving our desks and just bullshitting bad audio and stuff. But people were tuning in. It was just weird and different. And like, I do like the idea of it being a platform to just, if you have a weird, stupid idea, you can just do it. But at the same time, you know, there are the things like the Bombcast is going to keep going on. You know, but we've added things like, you know, Grubb's got the news show and everything now. Blight Club is a new thing that, you know, like is really kind of taken off and that I love doing every week. So like there are going to be elements and names and demo derby. I always love doing things like that. But yes, I definitely want to be able to do just new weird stuff as well. So all in the spirit though of what I feel Giant Bomb is.
Cool. All right, man. Well, best of luck. Get out there and do your thing. And that's going to do it for the show.
Doors open if you ever want to come on anything.
Right on. Okay. Yep. All right. We'll figure something out. And anime podcasts coming down the line.
Later this year, probably.
We'll figure something out. We'll figure out the timing and present more information when there's more information to present.
Yes.
All right. I'll be back next week with another episode of the podcast. And of course, I'll be back tomorrow to do something with some video games. And Friday, we'll rank some 8-bit Nintendo games.
I'm so jealous that you did that. It's the most layup, slam dunk. Can you lay up and slam dunk at the same time?
I think so. Yeah. That's the whole thing.
As soon as you started doing that, it's like, I would fucking love to do that so much. Oh, how did I not think of that? How did I not start doing that? God damn it. What a long tail on it. What a fun thing.
It's fucked.
Like, man.
We're coming up on 2 years of it here pretty soon.
Damn. Are you going to do 64?
Yeah, I think, you know, like that, maybe not immediately next, but like, yes, I think there's kind of a long list of just like, okay, here's, you know, what are the platforms to do next? And I think I need to do something smaller
Yes,
first,
smaller, yeah.
after this to kind of have a palate cleanser or something. But yeah, I think there's the idea is to these games simply must be ranked.
And every fucking time I hear you say, like, it does the same thing where I would like read a EGM top 100 games of all time thing and get mad at the ranking. Like, I'll hear they're like, oh, he looked at Kickle Cubicle, and it's like, oh, he put that below this, and it's like, oh man, okay, this works. This is good.
It's not me. This is science.
This I know. I understand.
And so it's not me doing this. It's a scientific evaluation.
You don't make the rules. You don't make the rules.
Exactly.
I get it.
If it was my list, Bionic Commando would probably still be on top. Maybe Rygar would still be the number one game.
What's current number one?
Mega Man 2.
Kind of hard to argue that.
I know. Yeah. Kind of hard to argue that. I'm like, at the same time, I'm like, I don't know. If we get to the end of this and Mega Man 2 is the number one game, I'm going to feel weird about it. But that's just how science works.
I feel like Punch-Out's not in the top 10 anymore. Is that right?
Right. Yeah. I think it slid out of the top 10 at some point.
Okay.
I mean, scientifically speaking, it's a pattern matching game that you match the patterns once and you know exactly how that game is played forever. There's zero variance. It's
once I started speedrunning it, I definitely you see the matrix of that. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. That's kind of that thing's downfall. But hey, yeah. Well, there's another batch of games to go there. With a lot of role playing games and stuff to get through here. That was the idea. Was I would do those in separate episodes that I would record at night. But because the baby's been teething for so long, she sleeps down here, and so I can't record on those nights. But the garage is almost ready.
Oh, nice.
And so when the office moves out there, who knows what the hell will happen. All right, I'm going to get going. Everybody have a good rest of your week. I'll be back tomorrow. You can find Dan Ryckert at giantbomb.com/join
if you want to support.
Yeah, and have a good rest of your week. I'll see the rest of you in the morning with video games and a bonus podcast and all that other stuff. See you soon. Bye.